Yeah.
That was way over the top. Is Derek not with us tonight?
No.
No.
Start your work.
Tom, how are you doing, sir?
Missed that.
How are you doing? Pretty good. I was on the wrong side of it. I don't know.
Messing everything up. You just want a black
I
backdrop.
don't know if I can get used to it. It's a little brighter over here.
Because they have all the lights on.
You see that over
It's
there?
my
you,
energy radiating across the
see
table.
over there, you can
Would've
watch
made
the
Corey's
hockey
head
games and stuff like that. It's better
Blair,
now.
redirect it.
Are we on?
Well, it says we're all set to go, so I'm just waiting.
Yeah, we need to. Hey, the other thing we talked about is, do you want to start having your school board meetings at the town hall in January?
No, Bonnie won't be here.
Baseball.
It looks like they can line it up so you can have the school board meeting starting in January. That was one thing.
Yeah.
So I will I'll communicate back. You're all set. I'll communicate back. That's what we'd like to do.
All right, good evening, everyone in the audience, and good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the December 6, 2017 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
stands
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
Would you give the curriculum director's reports to the school?
There's one revision to the agenda, and that is committee reports. That was omitted from the agenda. So that will be down with school board comments afterwards. Do you have any other revisions?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Bring us to summary of non-public actions from November 15, 2017. November 15, 2017 non-public minutes were sealed by the board. On November 29th, there were no non-public meetings. So this evening, I have several presentations. The first is a letter that was received from, where it's from. It's just from
Down the
Dan-
bottom.
Right, from Daniel Desjardins. He's the Assistant Scoutmaster for Boy Scout Troop 426 in Litchfield, New Hampshire. Dear sirs, the Scout leaders and members of the committee Boy Scout Troop 426 Londonderry take great pleasure in announcing that, having completed the requirements for and having been examined by an Eagle Scout Board of Review, Maxim Desjardins was found worthy of the rank of the Eagle Scout. In honor of this achievement, we have scheduled the Eagle Scout Court of Honor for December 11, 2017 at the Londonderry Presbyterian Church in Londonderry, New Hampshire. So again, congratulations to Maxim, and that's an awesome job for achieving Eagle Scout. So that's off. The next is we have 2 awards for the Empowering Excellence in Education, and I know, Tom, were you going to be speaking on one of them?
Sure. So we have many involved in our PTO who sort of do a lot of behind-the-scenes work and rise to the top. But I've had the pleasure of working with Laura Terrian for many years, and I just want to read a little blurb on her involvement in our PTO and really in our school community for many years. Laura has been an instrumental officer in our PTO at LMS for many years. Though the last thing she would ever want is recognition for her time and efforts, it is exactly these qualities of humility and willingness to serve that make her a cornerstone of our PTO. Laura is a key contributor for staff appreciation events, including the Welcome Back Breakfast, Parent Conference Lunch and Dinner, meals, and Teacher Appreciation Lunch. She coordinates and volunteers at many events throughout the year, including the Terry Fox Barbecue, the PTO Dance, enrichment assemblies, and providing refreshments at recognition ceremonies in the spring. Most impressive is that Laura does all of this with a smile on her face and never hesitates to serve. She is most deserving of this recognition, and I sincerely thank her for her ongoing support of our students in Litchfield and at our middle school. So, thank you, Laura. Thank you.
And with that, Laura, I have a little plaque for you and a pin.
At the January 10th, thank you.
Thank you. I love what I do, and I have many volunteers that help me, so thank you very much.
And we have a second recipient of the Empowering Excellence in Education. And Scott, would you like to speak on it?
Sure. As we all know...
Asking Scott if he wants to speak.
As we all know... I used to be shy.
Yeah.
Tina Harrison is a school board member and the vice chair of the board. What is not always so visible or public is the very significant and sustained contribution she has made directly to the staff, students, and parents of Griffin Memorial School. Tina, as a middle school recipient, has had her hand in many, many events throughout PTO. She is often one of the unseen parents who quietly contribute to the success of events run by others, but her biggest direct impact has been in the areas of staff recognition, increasing co-curricular opportunities for our students, and bringing a creative and innovative approach to fundraising. Tina will be the first to tell you that she hasn't done any of this alone, that there's been many, many others, but she has definitely shown incredible leadership in this area. She turned Teacher Appreciation into a true community event last year, involving the entire student body and their families in the celebration of our teachers. The theme was GMS Goes to Hollywood, and that theme extended to the PTO paparazzi, as one email mentioned, taking pictures of our staff members at random moments. But we always had the opportunity to edit if it was not favorable. We decorated doorways, had an awards assembly for the entire student body. She's ramped up our after-school activities with New Frontiers, which grew from an historic thing. But New Frontiers is run by community volunteers who provide activities to students at low or little cost. Today, one of the things that was also a fundraising activity was the paint club for students. We had 57, as it turned out, students doing a painting in a single afternoon. So that has fallen under the fundraising purview as well. But Tina's very special focus for the last several years has been co-chair of the PTO fundraising committee. Working with her co-chair, Tina set out, this was the message, to put the fun back into fundraising, purposely thinking outside the box. Among the events they have added are the one-stop holiday shop, a fair of local crafts and services, Kids Canvas that was today, Granite State American Kempo this year, Parents Nights Out, Paint Night, Movie Night, Bad Moms Night, Trivia Night, a note to the office, and of course Raise Craze. I want to mention Raise Craze a little more in detail. This was purposely designed to engage students in fundraising, which is a challenge at the elementary school. We don't send them door to door. Their role was to do and record acts of kindness. The premise that was that their adults would empower them by supporting the school fundraising effort. It was remarkable in a lot of ways. It was a meaningful way for elementary students to contribute safely. It met a specific building and community goal of addressing social and emotional needs of children, and it was also remarkable because of its huge success. Over a 3-week period, our students recorded over 2,000 acts of kindness and raised over $20,000 for the PTO. So for her dedication, her innovation, and her ongoing pioneering spirit, we would like to nominate Tina Harrison for the Empowering Excellence in Education Award.
This was not on the agenda when I looked at it this morning.
That was.
Well, I had to keep it quiet.
We got a photographer up there.
Oh, okay. Oh, I took a picture of your glasses. Liz, can you email me that picture? It's Brian's. Good luck with that.
I was wondering if you might be so
Well, congratulations
No
again to
idea.
both recipients. Well done from everybody.
fun.
That's
That'll bring us to correspondence.
Bless, I looked at it this morning.
You know,
Yes. We had some. Last week, I'm sorry, I'm a little thrown off. Let's see. We had a letter from, an email, I'm sorry, from Kathleen Follis, asking the board to place full-day kindergarten on a warrant article rather than as part of the budget. So I believe that's part of the discussion this evening. I think everybody on the board received it. I can summarize just by saying that she believes that it would foster more trust with the school board and give the voters should have an opportunity to weigh in rather than have the full day program forced upon them, as it is a significant impact to our budget and program and buildings. So that was that. And I think that was all as far as, I think that was the only one.
excellent.
To the board, yes.
Yeah. Bring us to superintendent's comments.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring the board up to date. We, myself and the chief of police, Chief O'Brien, met this past week and reviewed the memorandum of understanding between the police department and the public schools that had been signed a number of years ago, and in essence did not make any changes except to put our names on it, and had a minor change in changing the DARE officer to the SRO officer. So I would just ask that the board just approve the memorandum of understanding with the local police department, and then we will go forward with that. It is, in essence, like I say, the same as you previously approved. And the police department have been wonderful partners with the public schools in terms of their support, their presence, and their willingness to go the extra mile for us when we need the help. And I would publicly like to thank the police department very much for all of their help and all of their contributions to the public schools, children and adults. So thank you very much.
Are you looking for a vote on that?
I am looking for a vote because technically, although I signed it, it doesn't have any merit until the school board approves it.
So I'll make a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding.
I second.
The only thing I would encourage us is to clarify that O'Brien is not spelled with an E. Should be an
No.
E instead of an O.
I think it is O.
Oh, it is O?
So B-R-I-O-N. It's just that when the chief signed it, he kind of
Okay.
looped down that piece.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
400. Next is your enrollment.
The enrollment report, you have a copy of that. It is, again, somewhat uneventful in terms of the change. Now, just for the audience, these are just monthly reports, not the annual October 1 report. And there's minor fluctuations. The elementary school is down by 3 students, middle school is down by 1 student, and the high school's even. So the overall enrollment is down by 6 students within the district over the past October 27th and November 24th timeframe. Attached to the enrollment report also is an analysis of students that were either leaving the various schools in the districts or entering into the district from outside schools. And you can refer to that. The transition between middle school and high school is always the one where a number of students choose to enroll in a different educational experience. And other than that, I don't think there's a lot here that is of note, but I certainly am prepared to answer questions, or the principals can answer any questions you might have about their enrollment.
I had a question with Scott. If you had numbers yet for enrollment for first grade?
For next year?
Yeah.
No. So we have to, we typically do that in January, and we send out, we have a night in January when we do incoming kindergarten and incoming first grade. I know how many we have in kindergarten, but I don't know other
Yeah.
than that.
And typically, you have a big bump anyway from what's in kindergarten right now and then what goes in the first grade.
Yes, it has varied quite a bit, but typically, I would say an average number would be around 20.
And your kindergarten's sitting right now at 52. Do you have anything else, Superintendent?
I do not have anything else, Mr. Chair, at this point in time. I want to make a note of the nice audience that we have this evening.
Well, they're
Very
gonna
nice
have
to see this many people coming out to the board
I have a
meeting.
question before we move on, Superintendent. Did Office Chief O'Brien say when we were getting a SRO officer back at the high school?
That is still somewhat up in the air. I don't think there's any specific date that I've been made aware of. I think it's very much contingent on some factors that are outside of the chief's control.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be fully staffed until about this time next year.
Right.
You know, they just hired
That's correct.
another police officer this week, and they'll have two that come out of training on
That's correct.
December, but they won't be fully
Right.
in the first quarter, and then I think one is on deployment for another
Yeah.
4 or 5 months. So I don't think they'll be fully staffed until, like I said, fall next year. But I don't know if there's anybody on staff now that would fill that role. Because isn't it a part-time position that they had in the past?
I think that Bill might have some additional information, because he has contact with the liaison from the police department.
Yeah, Heath Savage usually comes up to the school at least twice a week. Usually he'll spend about an hour to an hour and a half. He'll come in and see Mike or me, or then he goes about and walks through the building. So last week, there were a couple of times where he was in the building for at least an hour each time, to an hour and a half. So he makes it a point to come in multiple times over the course of the week. I'm not sure if that's occurring in the other schools.
Yeah, he comes in at least once a week, a half hour, 45 minutes.
So, yeah, so there is a presence there. It's just not as consistent as we would want it to be.
But to your point, I don't think there's anybody, in any way that we know of, anybody's been designated to take the SRO position specifically at this point. And as you say, he's still understaffed, looking to bring some people up to full officer capacity.
Yeah, I was at that meeting when he gave his presentation. I agree with that, but I still think it should be a priority. I think it's good to have, for the kids to have a police officer in town they can talk to and trust.
Well, that'll bring us to community forum. No one?
Well, I have a group, but there's nobody else that
What else is new?
I...
I didn't say that too loud, did I?
Just
Just 5,000 people
So,
watching.
Robin Corbeil, 4 Smith Court. I'm actually here as the, I don't know what I am, the team mentor for the coach for the robotics team. It's been a pretty long 6 weeks that these middle school students have put into this program. But we came to share with you some of our results. We want to thank the school board for supporting this program. I came on late, so it was a mad dash to the finish, as they will agree. And so we've kind of been involved in heads down, but we totally appreciate the fact that the school board has supported this program. Some of the changes that we made is we brought the program into the school as part of the school day, in essence. So my 7th graders were able to utilize their enrichment time to come in and work on it. We brought the boards into the classroom, so I have 2, 3, 4-foot by 8-foot boards stacked in my room. We made it so that it was after school for students so that they were able to get involved. Our numbers are up to probably 25 kids, close to 25, spread out across 3 teams. We had a first ever all-girls team that not only made the qualifiers but made it to the state competition. I know Caitlin will talk to that in a couple minutes, which was a great experience for the girls and for me. We had a great group of 7th graders who did a phenomenal job working together. In fact, they kept me there many days, right? Because they were so dedicated and worked so hard to get everything just the way that they wanted it to be. and everybody was able to bring their talents into it. So I think it was a really great experience, and I just want to thank not only the school board but our administrators. Tom and Martha have been phenomenal. Anytime we've needed anything, access to the school has been, great. Sure, what can we do for you? How can we support this? So I just think it's a program that really needs to be a part of our school. We clearly have students who excel in it, and we're hoping to start it. We're going to run it as a full-year program. So starting in January, we're going to try to open it up and get another 15 kids involved so that we'll have upwards of 40, which is a really tough thing to do with one mentor. But we're gonna try to make it work. We have some incredible volunteers. Mrs. Chu spends many hours with me organizing, working, and Mrs. Saranovich also has put in a ton of time with this for our students. So it's just been really good. And I don't know if Lucas will speak for me or not. Do you want me to speak? Yes. At the state competition, Lucas was actually nominated by one of the team members from our team as the young mentor for the state championship, and he actually won that award. It was the only award given to a young mentor for his time and dedication, because when his team didn't advance to states, he stayed on with us, and he would show up and he would help troubleshoot programming. He would sit in as a judge for us and give feedback to the other team. He even came one night, they had me there at night making buttons for the competition, just whenever we could fit time in. There was always students who were willing to be there and put the time in. And I said to them, when we made it from the qualifiers to states, I said, look, do you guys just want to go and see what we can do? Or do you want to go to win it? And they were like, we want to win it. And I'm like, okay. How many days do you need to be here? And they were 4 days a week, 5 days a week. We want to be here. We want to spend the time. We want to do the best job that we can possibly do. And they did. They represented Litchfield amazingly at the competition. The parents were there. It was a great day. So thank you for supporting this program and allowing us to do all this wonderful work with these students.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Got it, Caitlin. Oh, go, Jay. Go, Caitlin. There was a basketball game. Sorry.
So we went to the regionals competition, and in core values, which was our lowest score, for the first competition, we managed to come out with the Core Values Inspiration Award. There were about 10 awards being given for different things. Out of 50 teams, we were one of the chosen.
Yeah. And then in the robot game, we placed 27 out of 50. And we didn't complete the challenge in the core values room. However, we still got an award for core values because of the way we demonstrated the core values.
We showed a lot of working together and having fun, even though we didn't complete the thing.
And what has this program meant to you guys?
A lot.
I met some people that I wouldn't have met, like Jaden, without this program, and I've had fun.
Made some friends and learned a lot about what happens. Coding was really fun. It's difficult at first and very frustrating because robots wouldn't always run the same every time. But we figured it out, and it ended up being a really great experience.
And both girls were able to program an event at the States that was successful. That's good.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yes.
Pass it around. We'll let that over.
Thank you for letting us enable us.
So I would like to thank you guys. Like Ms. Corbiel said, we also won a Core Values Award. There were 5 awards handed out at the qualifiers for states. We got the Core Values Award, and then we moved on to states with the girls team.
So on states, we had landed a score of 105 on the board, coming in 26th out of 50 teams. Sadly, it wasn't enough to have us move on to the next level or win an award for that one.
But I think it was more points than we'd ever scored before.
I thought the other team had 100.
They had, your team had never scored. I think the high score they had was 55 and 60 at the qualifier, and both teams scored 100 points when they went to the state. So they, again, put in time, they came back to school and they said, you know what, we want to program more, we want more opportunity, we want to do better on the board. And the boys, it was pretty phenomenal. Their first run on the board was not their best, right?
35 points, I believe.
35 points.
We went from 35 to 105.
Yeah, so things didn't work out the second, but they didn't let it get them down. They went back, they practiced on the practice board. They went up to the board the second time and scored 105 points. So, as Rocky started to play in the background, honestly, it was pretty amazing.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anyone else for community forum?
Could I just add a comment to that?
Absolutely.
So I also want to, I also want to thank the coaches and volunteers for all their work, and the students, phenomenal job. This program's grown leaps and bounds just in a short time, about 3 years, really, it's grown. But we, in addition to all the good news from the regional tournament on Sunday, we received really good news. Robin was in touch with a few different people there. UNH wants to invite us down, at least one or two of the teams.
They were talking about sharing some resources with us.
Yeah, and they were very impressed with the circuit breakers, particularly the all-girls team, because I was the only all-girls team at the competition. But then she also heard on Monday that a grant that we were actually denied because of our demographic, actually. They have worked a way out through First New Hampshire to meet that funding for the grant. So we are going to receive those funds for further teams, robots, and to build the program.
Yeah,
so thank you.
They found private funding, and they identified 4 teams of the 100 that didn't get funded from that first round because it was a state-run grant, and we are one of the teams that they are going to privately give a $1,200. Because again, I talked to first to Chris McCall, the head mentor, and he said, and I said, these are the teams you should be supporting. This is an all-girls team. Everybody says we want girls teams because the all-girls team was our newest team. Up till this year, we only had 2 teams that would compete. We brought that number up to 3, hoping that we would get the funding from the state to support the extra robot, the extra board, the competition fees, that type of thing. And it fell through, and this again is when I have to commend Tom. And I went to him and I said, what do I do? And he's like, don't worry about it, we'll find the money. We'll make this work so that those kids can go to the competition. And then they won. So it was pretty amazing. We've just been very supported and very encouraged through the whole thing. And Ken from First emailed me both Sunday and Monday and said, we've considered you for this grant. And then I talked to him yesterday and he said, we would like to continue to support this type of development of the first program. So you did a good job.
Again, congratulations to all of you.
As a parent of a child on this team, I can't tell you enough how much it helped.
You know, we talk a lot today about, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, arts. And we talk a lot about, preparing children for creative, critical thinking capacity when they get out of public schools, because so much of what you're going to do is going to require not memorizing things, but the ability to take problems and think creatively and critically about problems and get solutions and then demonstrate those solutions in a very public environment. So I think programs like this are just such a wonderful program because they bring all of those things into an event that's really fun. And it's really a fun program. So I want to thank all of the students, teachers, and all of the advisors who participated in this, because this is the kind of stuff that really, really enhances education for our children. So thank you very much.
It's great.
Anyone else for community forum?
Come on out.
Come on out. Before we get going.
Could have asked.
They wouldn't.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing them.
Right, we have 2 sets of minutes for approval. First, the November 15, 2017 minutes.
Make a motion to accept those minutes. Right there. Go a second.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Same thing? Aye what?
Do.
Do what?
I think she approves.
Abstain?
To support. Sorry.
You're supporting the budget, or what?
Holy smokes.
Let's try it
We haven't
again.
even had a hard part of the meeting yet.
Liz, I'll get your attention before I start.
Just put me down
going
with
forward.
whatever Tina said.
I didn't say anything either, but I, for me.
So we'll try it again. Okay. So November 15th minutes, we have a first and we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yay. Now we have the November 29th minutes.
Okay.
Is there a motion to accept those minutes?
So wait,
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. 400. All right. Next, we have PERC courses recommendations. We have 2 courses.
Yes.
The first is Intro to Stats.
And the PSAT and SAT prep class.
Yep.
So the intro to statistics, there are currently 3 AP statistic classes now, and one of those would be eliminated and the teacher used to teach that intro to stats. Juniors now have a choice of honors pre-calc or the TAC class. This additional choice would give them, lead some of those juniors to take the AP class in their senior year. So it doesn't involve any extra funding for staff.
And what class was eliminated?
They would eliminate one of those 3 AP statistic classes.
But you're not sure right now which one?
No, it's a numbers game in terms
just-
of
you're waiting
what
as far as-
students are registering for. Correct.
Geometry, algebra 2. What comes after algebra 2?
Well, you could do statistics, you could do AP stats, you could do pre-calc or calculus. So one of the...
one of other
Other-
50 classes.
Which we haven't approved yet, to my understanding, right? But right, and that's the key piece, John, is for those current juniors, is to have those other options for that 4th year class. And for some of those students who may not be looking at taking the honors level, this is a good course pragmatically. You know, it's not just simply about mathematics, but it's about reasoning and logic and some of those other things as well. So, yeah, it's a good upper level course for some of those students who may not straight be math heavy and math inclined.
Well, the key is statistics is a different thought process
Right.
of math than algebra, geometry, and even calculus. I mean, it really is a totally different thought process, and I think it's very useful for people who are looking for business management, business administration degrees, because I think that's more in line with statistics are more in line with those types of degrees than going off if you're going to be an engineer or stuff like that. So
this would be an introduction class instead of the honors class.
Right,
which
and
it's
the
more
committee thought that
attainable for
was
some
very worthwhile
students.
because the seniors now have a choice of honors, calculus, and AP stats. So there's really nothing at that level in their senior year. So we thought that was very worthwhile. And then the PSAT, SAT prep course, that's going to be a semester-long half credit for English, half credit for math, taught by 1 English teacher and 1 math teacher, pass-fail. It would add a 6th class for the instructors. The class would be 90 minutes a day, and scheduling would be determined if this is approved by the board. Class enrollment is limited to 30, with juniors having first choice. And again, very worthwhile because ultimately, I think it will help raise test scores. If anything, it'll teach them strategies of what to look for and how to analyze questions on the test. And the actual test would take place during the school day to eliminate the need for paying for janitors on the weekend or staffing.
So, a couple questions on that. So you have 200 students, roughly 220 students,
And only 30 can take it.
and you're only going to open it up for 30 students? That's a scheduling nightmare. I don't know. How are you going to pick the 30? You going to do a lottery or something? I mean,
typically, the program schedules students for those classes. So some students won't be able to take it simply because it will not align with their scheduling options that they've chosen. So you're going to weed out a number of those students.
But I understand, but the whole idea behind, adding that class is to make our students ready to take the SAT or PSA test. So, we have 110 on average every year juniors that need to take that.
So they'd be open to 60 of them.
First semester, second semester.
Yeah.
You could offer it 2 times a year. If you
Well,
wanted to.
are you going to offer it 2 times a year? That's not what you said.
We
You said
haven't
you're going
given
to
that
offer it for
consideration.
for 30 students.
Yep.
I mean, how many, you just did a PSA test in October, I believe? And you had roughly 50 or 60 students?
Somewhere in that line, yeah.
And how many of those were sophomores?
Most.
So, I mean, they're gonna want the same, they may not want it in their sophomore year, but depending on the scores they're gonna get any day now, they're gonna want to have an opportunity to take this, class, depending, if they scored well, they may feel very comfortable, but still, that, even if it's 50 or 60 students, it's still just half of the student body of that,
Still more than we
that,
had before. My parents paid
well, I understand.
privately.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's. I mean, I understand that it's. I'm supporting the class.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I think that your mindset behind it. I think you may find that parents would like the opportunity for their kids to be able to do it, just to see, how our program works, outside of having to go outside getting outside tutoring on it, stuff like that.
We offered it last year, after school, and we had, I think, probably around 30 students that took it. We had an English teacher and a math teacher who alternated days doing that. And that, depending on teacher interest, that was a self-funded program. So there's a possibility of doubling up to some degree by offering it after school. And I wouldn't be averse to offering that as a secondary option as well, to target some more of those students. Yep. Dalla, would you like to speak to this? Dalla's one of our teachers who was actually behind the proposal to create this.
Yes, the course is, we would like it to run both semesters, so semester 1 and semester 2, to accommodate getting it to as many students as possible. It was never in the intention to remove that after-school prep course that kids were signing up for. However, when kids play sports and have jobs and after-school responsibilities, that is hard for some students. So to help with that, we figured giving an in-school throughout the course of a day that could fit into some students' schedules would help prepare them for that standardized test that they might not have the test-taking skills yet to approach. And also, I think the after-school one was also a cost to the students, where during the day it would not be. So.
Yes, that was self-funded. Parents paid, I'm not quite sure the amount. I think it was $100 or somewhere in that neighborhood for the course.
So would it be for only juniors or sophomore, second semester, juniors, first semester? I guess you could talk about,
We just said juniors as a priority right now. In the future, if we can have our freshmen and sophomores doing PSATs, we can look at those scores and target some of the students who are really struggling and place them as well as juniors and make them a priority, and then filter in the rest of the seats from there.
So 30 students isn't much.
Well, it's not.
You have 118 kids right now as juniors.
And they got to take the, when is it, in the spring?
The
April?
SAT is in the spring.
In April?
It's in, yeah. No, it's in May.
Do we run into equity issues by offering this during the school day and having a fee-based program after school?
I guess you could make that argument, certainly. Some students have the resources. I don't know if we could make it contingent upon, a student's economic background, financial status, free and reduced lunch status, or something along those lines.
And would it would it be the same students who could, who would be able to fit into their schedules, and, that it's a lot of ifs.
Yeah. Yep.
I understand.
So, I did have some more questions on the statistics, so I'll wait till we get finished on the PSAT, but I think the PSAT is a right program, but I think that the implementation across the schedule for both sophomores and juniors, I don't think we're getting the answers that would make one feel that all students are having the opportunity. You may end up having to offer it twice, 2 times a day.
Yeah.
You may be able to have to offer on both Tuesday, Thursday, and a Wednesday, Friday, because that's, you have to open that up. I mean, we try to open up as many of our classes as we can to all of our students. And I think that, if a student feels that they need this support, they may try to juggle their schedule a little bit to accommodate a half a semester class to ready themselves for the exam.
I think the challenge we're going to face, John, is if we offer it across the spectrum. Our math classes currently are already fairly large in comparison to other classes. So when you start looking at classes of 25 to 30 students in those classes, all of a sudden I'm starting to think of, okay, that's going to require more staffing in order to accommodate if we decide that we want to offer this. And that's that you're going to talk a significant difference in terms of what we budgeted for that last year versus what. That's my concern.
You have your budget going forward for 18, 19 already
right.
presented, but I don't think you can just work within inside of the model that I think that you have. Maybe we'll be proven wrong, but I think parents are going to want their kids to have the best opportunities. Now the SAT has been, brought in-house basically by the state's requirements. Now there's an opportunity for them to get their test and have an outstanding opportunity to get a good grade, and maybe something that's even better offered to sophomores and juniors.
Well,
in that process.
I think there's going to be a huge demand. Someone like me whose son plays 3 sports, how is he going to, driver's ed will be a priority. I'm sick of driving him here already. It hasn't even first semester.
Well, it's good to know, we put education on the
Yeah,
back burner
but
for a driver
we
license.
could do that on the weekends, but the fact that you would offer that during the school day, I think you'll be really surprised how many people will want that.
Then we'll have a dilemma to deal with in terms of scheduling, because that will be the challenge, is that our math teachers' courses are pretty full in many cases. So that will be a challenge. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's worthwhile looking at. And even if we sort of triage second semester being for sophomores more so than the juniors, maybe you can accommodate a few more of those sophomores in there and some additional juniors. But yeah.
So, I just want to be clear on, you're proposing to offer it both semesters, so that would accommodate 30 students per semester, that'd be 60. Are we still proposing to have a fee-based after-school program, or would that go away?
I think it's still an option, and I think, in that case, it would simply be finding out whether we have staff available who would be interested in English and in a math teacher. And what we did in the past is just simply do a quick survey with parents to see who was interested and go forward. But if it was necessitated, I'd be more than happy to support that.
And if your initial course enrollment showed the kind of interest that the board's concerned about, let's say your initial course enrollment had 100 kids who wanted to take, would we try to accommodate all 100 kids in the development of our program for next year?
Yes, and it would necessitate some alternatives in terms of staffing. You're looking at 6 blocks.
Well, I understand. You have to prioritize, and you're a small district.
But I'd like to take a look at numbers, because I do think we were facing some challenges this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Could we make it a stipend position after school And then you wouldn't have, students
that again,
wouldn't,
I'm
a
sorry.
stipend position after school, and then students wouldn't have to pay.
That would be something we certainly could look into. As
we'd have
with
to
all
have someone
stipended
teach it.
positions, we would have to develop a course description, a job description, and then work with the association. But there's been a very good working relationship with the Teachers Association over the last several years, and I believe that will continue into the future. And I think that we certainly could look at a stipended position at the Budget Committee hearing. I requested that the Budget Committee keep it at least $7,000 to $8,000 in the stipends, which are currently not earmarked. So we still have $7,000 or $8,000 in the stipended positions for next year. We could earmark some of that money for this particular position. And the other area that I've been earmarking money for next year is a robotics program in our elementary school. So we're hopeful of having the robotics program in our elementary school as early as the second half of this year. So I think those two areas, mathematics, a PSAT kind of course, and robotics extending into our elementary school, I think are both right on target with the school board's goals. So I think we could certainly do that. I would ask, depending on the board's desire here, I would certainly ask the high school to bring back their numbers when they get them, and let us take a look at what the enrollment looks like, and how many of the students, our goal would be to try to accommodate all students, but I think, as Bill has stated, sometimes in a small school with so many singleton courses, kids have to make choices between A or B, and I've never been in a real small school where you got to take everything you wanted to take if they were singleton courses. So maybe 60 is a reasonable number, I don't know, but if we had the after-school stipended position, plus we had the during the days 60 kids, we could, it would be getting more towards that 80 or 90 kids, which I think might be the outside of what we'd have. If we have more than that, then our goal would be to try to accommodate those kids, but I respectfully understand Bill's situation as a high school principal.
I just don't think it's fair for kids have to pay after school if it's offered in class. That's my problem.
Is it not already a stipend position?
We self-funded it last year, so I'm not sure if it was if
I think what the high school did last year was to get the program going because they defined a need, was just say, hey, look, if parents want to take this, we'll pay for it ourselves. We won't call it a stipend position. It's just going to be a self-funded position. Where's the line there? I don't know. We're trying to fill
Were
a
we paying
need.
the teacher?
Yes, yeah.
So it was a stipend position?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, the after-school program, was that every day after school for a semester? Like, how does that compare to the daily?
I think it was a couple days after school for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I think if you stipended that position, you would avoid the equity piece.
Right.
Which would be the
Parents
important
would
part.
have to pay.
Good
Right.
point.
What were you saying, Nate?
So, yeah, it wasn't a stipend within the CBA.
Correct.
So I
Okay.
think what happened was part of the cost for the teacher, I believe materials and sort of labor costs was built
Bless
into
you.
the cost of the program. That's my understanding of how that would work there.
Keep in mind that your CBA requires any stipended position to go through a process which involves both the Teachers Association and the administration and the school board. So there is a process defined for that, and
There is, but it sounds,
appreciate it.
it still sounds like the position
Yeah.
was a stipend position.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let me get information on that.
And we
talk
also,
with the
yeah.
teachers
I
who
mean,
did that.
say whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah,
we're charging
yeah.
the students, we're paying the teacher.
We also have stipends available through the 2A grant,
Through what?
through the Title 2A grant, so we wouldn't have to go through that process as just an option.
you would, I would just say this, anytime you're going to offer a position that's going to be a quote stipend, it has to go through the process of going through the Teachers Association, the administration, and the school board. And at the same time, that I think it's a good process, and it's not been a process that we've had any issues with timing in the last 2 years. It's just been very smooth. As long as it continues that way, it's a great process. The point where that gets to be not a great process is if on any of the three parties, there's a certain degree of digging the heels in, and then that process gets to a point where it's it takes change and brings it to a stop. And so that's all I had to say.
So maybe the high school can work on that,
Yeah, I
to
will.
get it back to us so that the other two legs of that process can be explored.
I hear the board that they haven't voted yet, but what I'm hearing is the board is excited about the course, but they want to see us have a little bit better look at how many students we can accommodate and optimize that number through both in-school and after-school programs, so that it would be after-school stipended, so equity is not an issue.
And then we'll have to also talk about as to whether or not we want to make it a stipend position, although it already is.
If the
We can
students
certainly,
get, what are the
we'll certainly
chances?
work on that and bring that to you folks.
Which brings up concerns, like how many other non-stipend positions do we have roaming out there?
But
This
then-
is the only one that I'm aware of, Brian. Yeah.
High school.
I'd be curious if the students are picking out their
Tom?
own courses, how many go, oh, please, sign
Scott?
me up for that. I mean, I think parents need to know that the course is
don't have
available, because
any.
Tommy wants.
That was a good answer, Scott. Good
Very good answer.
It was mentioned.
Kindergarten.
A proposal, but that's different.
So, real quickly, back to statistics.
Yeah.
So, who's the target market for the statistics class?
Typically, not just students who are interested in the challenge, the incredible challenge and rigor of the honors statistics course, number one. So it would be upper level junior and senior students. It would be students who need that fourth year of math, so they may take math, which is the topics and applied concepts. But this is an alternative for those students who don't want to take the rigor of the honors, excuse me, the AP, or the honors stats.
Honors calculus and
Or the honors
and
calc.
the AP stats.
Yeah.
Because how does this, I mean, we have a whole group of students that are totally new to the process with our sophomores. Who are going to come out of their
Correct.
sophomore year, have already completing algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. This sophomore class.
They're fast
So
tracked.
where do you see those 40 or, I think it's 40 students, Tom may know better because he had the first group of them, but 40 or 45 students, how do you see them scattering across in the junior and the seniors math programs? I mean, you haven't had to deal with it really
Correct. Right.
until the senior year.
And that's
So
when-
they're going to want something for their junior year.
Correct. So you could look at honors, well, I mean, the progression is typically, you have algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, then the question comes in, do you do pre-calc? Are you going on to AP Calc? Are you going on to honors statistics? Or if you're not that sort of serious a math student, there's college prep math, there's topics and applied concepts. This fits well for those students who want some rigor. Again, you're talking about your marketing, your businesses, your psychologies, all of those other types of students, but they may not necessarily be the engineering bound and the sort of, I'm on the biomed track or some of those other areas, but it's good upper level challenging rigor and course as well. A college bound kid, absolutely.
So this would be
take
this would be both a junior and a senior class?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions? Dr. Childers, you're looking for approval from the board on these courses, correct?
Yes,
I don't believe we're ready as far as the PSAT and SAT,
correct.
but as far as intro to stats, is there a motion?
Well, I think we're ready to approve them. We're just looking for how you're going to implement it. And I don't think that,
Well, I'd be concerned about approving it and find out we can't implement it.
well, they can implement it
Well,
for 30 kids.
We could do for 60, possibly.
30 and 30.
So, I mean, I don't think either one of that would slow, I mean, you wouldn't vote the program down, would you, if they could only offer it to 30 students?
I'd have to consider it. I mean, you're talking 120 kids, possibly more if you're talking sophomores that are eligible for the course, and I realize that the courses, like the superintendent said beforehand, it's first come, first served, but there aren't that many courses that there may be 100 kids that want to take it, and we turn away 80 of them. I don't think there's any other courses that are like that.
It's true.
And then I'm just wondering,
It's that way.
that's my first thought. I'm not saying I'm against it. I think I'm against what the process is right now that's been laid out to us.
So if you look at a sophomore, they would have potentially 4 options, okay? sophomore year, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. So there's a chance in those 2 years of high school that they could get this course. Granted, you're talking 60, you're talking 120 students. It's probably a 50-50 shot that they're going to get in that course. If we would possibly look at scheduling, maybe have the opportunity to offer an additional section each semester, or do a legitimately stipended position after school several times over the course of the year, I think we could start to manage larger numbers of that.
Is it just a quarter class where they would take it, and then the rest of the quarter, rest of the semester, they're in like a study hall?
No, this is a semester-long course. So it'd be first semester, first two
Okay.
quarters, second semester, third
Well, you
quarter,
just,
third,
you
fourth.
you confused me, you just said first quarter, second quarter, third quarter,
I'm sorry,
fourth quarter,
yes,
so I was
yeah,
like,
no. I meant
Okay.
for sophomore year and junior
Okay,
year.
all right.
You'd have 4 times between those two semesters each year.
Once parents find out about this, they're gonna want their kids in it. If the kids sign up for it, they may not.
in reality, you don't have but 3 semesters, because the 4th semester, in the middle of that semester, you gotta take the test.
Yeah.
So that really, I don't know if that helps you.
But you can take
Well,
it again.
you can also
I took
retake
it
it.
3
No,
times.
well,
And
no,
many students
but
do.
no, I understand,
Yeah.
but, you know,
There's also costs associated with
You know.
taking it again.
because, you know, we're trying to prep them to be prepared, taking the preparation for the class and the test, and in the middle of it, you know, it's, okay, now you need to go, so.
We meeting in 2 minutes.
We're meeting again in 2 weeks. It might be worthwhile for the administration and the curriculum director to take a look and come back with a more concrete presentation regarding how they might meet, if the demand is 100, 120 students on an annualized basis, how they would meet that demand. Perhaps you could approve the course contingent upon meeting the analysis and
Well, we
a...
can wait 2 weeks before we don't have to approve the course necessarily tonight.
True,
And I'm just
absolutely.
wondering if guidance can get involved also, and you can inquire with them, like, I'm certain they've known numbers in the past of students that may have taken a course like this.
Right.
Like I said, the only thing I see different about this is there may be, I mean, there are a lot of courses that you don't necessarily have to take. You don't have to take this course, but it sounds like this course would be very helpful for them. So,
It's a good problem to have.
yeah, absolutely.
And just to clarify for myself, this would be an everyday, you said a day,
Well, it'd be a
Every
traditional
day.
block, in our traditional scheduling system, so they
6
would
block.
have it Mondays and then Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday.
Oh, okay, so
yeah.
it's not every, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yep.
Well, that would be an awful lot of study matter, you had to do it every day for
I'd
90 minutes.
expect the highest scores.
Yeah.
I would have huge
Hundreds all
expectations.
around.
Yeah.
I don't think those kids are gonna wanna see a piece of paper with a
No,
circle in it
they're
ever
not.
again.
Some kids don't even know how to fill out the bubble
Number
things,
2
John.
pencil.
I mean, they've never seen those Scantron things before, and they don't know how to use them. I mean,
So do you want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a
for
motion to
stats?
accept statistics, and we'll go with that.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor
I
signify by saying aye.
did, you missed it.
Aye. 4-0-0.
You have an early eye over there.
Yeah,
We'll put that on the agenda for our next
for
meeting
December 20th.
for December 20th. Thank you.
It really is just guidance coming down, and
Well, I think, you know, the board's concern is on offering it to as many students as we possibly can, and I think we have to get an answer to that.
And I mean, if it's like 40 kids and you're only missing 10, then that's a little different, then they can maybe take the after course, but.
I'll have a conversation with Jody Callahan, and we'll try to get a sense of what numbers might look like. I'm a little concerned simply because the sort of course registration process won't be beginning until January, February, and later on. So,
Yeah.
you know, we won't have a real clear idea on numbers.
No, but she might have some idea from, like I said, in the past.
Yeah. Yep.
And I would just like to say, I really want to express my appreciation to the math department and to the principal and curriculum director, because this is a course which is really going to help our kids get to that next level in terms of perhaps college acceptance or perhaps financial help. So certainly, these kind of courses, I want to express my sincere appreciation to bringing it to the board. And the board's concern, to me, is a concern about making sure that everybody can take this course that wants to take this course, and not that they don't like the course. I think it's a fabulous idea, so thank you very much.
all the credit goes to Darla over there, who's the one who sort of coordinated.
Well, I was looking at Della when I was talking. You notice I was not looking over here. Looking right at Della.
But I honestly think parents, me included, would understand that this is a pilot program, that if you need to roll out a smaller amount of classes this spring until you figure out the need and the want for it, to figure it out for next year. It would stink if you don't get in, but
Yeah. I'd like to, I realize it could be a pilot program. I'd like to see it.
But it wouldn't be this spring anyway.
No.
Perhaps
In fall.
Well, it'd be for
in the fall, we could certainly
registration.
do what we can.
oh, yeah.
We look forward to your report.
I think the program studies has to be 20th also.
So moving on, I'll bring us to reports, and we're starting with curriculum.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the curriculum report?
I had asked Dr. Childers where she was going to have a significant amount of time to talk about new courses to kind of, we'll move through her presentation rather quickly, and then we'll move on to the other presentations.
I don't have anything.
I don't know.
No, okay.
That brings us up to, Scott, believe it or not, you're on here twice.
I am. Wow.
It's on my agenda, you're on there twice.
Where?
Okay. If I can just find my principal's report.
EMS.
Oh, I
Okay.
might have put it on when I was.
I saw that.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Sorry.
about it.
2 reports.
Talked too much, just like twice.
We really.
Stop talking, we'll be here till midnight.
Okay.
You're
I
full
will
of it
be-
tonight, Brian.
I've highlighted a few things to bring to your attention. It was mentioned we've had a small change in enrollment. I will just mention that. I'd like to acknowledge our Veterans Day Committee, because that has been since our last meeting that I was here. We had a really wonderful ceremony this year. One thing they added that was new and really touching is that we had a color guard of active service members and veterans who were in uniform and presented the colors and walked them out at the end. It was really quite a special event. And we have a committee of people who I've acknowledged in my written report for all the work they did, plus the people who served in the color guard. I'm very excited because we've talked many times here about the one-to-one initiative moving down to the elementary school, that teachers on their own have formed a professional learning group called the Google Guys and Gals. We're big into alliteration, I guess. But most of them attended the Google Summit in the summer. They were also energized by the fact that they now have Chromebooks. That was happened this year. But they meet on their own periodically, including tomorrow. They did a presentation, which I actually did not get to attend because I was in a different training on November 20th and 21st. But they are discussing things like Google Calendar, which is coming our way, Quizlet, Quizzes, Kahoot, Socrative, things I don't actually know what they are, so please don't ask me. Screencastify, and then Teresa Planty is going to do a faculty meeting presentation of Nearpod, which I got to see in her class, but it really is a learning community kind of thing. So we have some exciting stuff going on. The PTO had a great month. I just want to mention and acknowledge the Pumpkin Festival. Again, thinking outside the box, we've always had a Halloween bash, which I always worried was aptly named, because we have a large number of students inside the gymnasium, and they're trying to dance and have fun and do games. But this year, they moved it outside, which was just wonderful. And they had a DJ, a pumpkin carving contest, games for the kids. It was really awesome. It was just great. We actually had teachers who attended, which was another positive sign. Raise Craze, I've already mentioned, but just again, the goal was initially $7,000, which was thought to be maybe optimistic, but the fact is they grossed over $22,000. And Mrs. Sabona's class in particular took top honors both for the number of AOKs completed and the number of amount of money they raised. I'd like to thank all the staff members who participated in the AOK Circus. You have some pictures from that.
Is there a video somewhere?
Yes, there was.
Some
Laurie
pictures somewhere,
Martin
too.
recorded the entire event on a video. Yeah, and,
Special screenings of feedback.
yeah, I think there was a really good pan of.
In non-public?
Yes, well, Mr. Isbicki, you might not recognize, but he was there.
My kids didn't recognize.
They actually didn't recognize me either. They said, "Who was that guy playing the tuba?" So, I'm not kidding, they didn't know. But it was.
You can't see it at home, I'm sure, but we do have a colored picture of
yeah.
the team here, led by the principal in the center. I have no idea who the other 4 people are.
Oh, really?
No.
Is it better than Brian's?
Okay.
I do occasionally
I'd be
understand.
happy to out them.
Well, I think that there's one person to your right in the picture that's got this green, red, and yellow hair and big sunglasses and suspenders and a tutu.
He looks like one of the
I'm sitting here, and it's not me.
I would think, just judging by the pictures, everybody was extremely good sports about the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And
The kids
had
loved
a
it.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a big hit.
It was a great day, actually. All right, the 4th grade, I just want to mention they're doing something that I thought was a little, let's see how this goes-ish, and it's gone really well. They're doing dissection for science, which is a big deal for 4th graders. The teachers prepared them well, excuse me, and the students who have done it so far, they haven't all, really handled it very maturely. They're dissecting squid, so this is one of the units that they do. It was just awesome to see the work that they were doing.
They've had calamari, they've already done it, yeah.
Yes, but this is a little different, because you begin with a whole squid and you have a diagram. You have to find the parts. We had a really packed schedule of PD activities on both the 20th for paras and the 21st for the teachers. So the things we covered quickly are 28 paras did crisis prevention and intervention with Devin Bandersky. That's also the thing that I did. It was a 2-day training. I've done it many times before, but we have to repeat it periodically. We had our dyslexia screening committee looking at the October data from Ames Web and doing cutoffs, setting cutoffs, looking at the students we want to retest. We know a lot of the kids who came in with no experience have actually learned quite a bit, so we're going to do some retesting, and then we'll screen everybody again in the winter time. We also, as I mentioned, the Google's Guys and Gals did a 1-hour presentation. The specialists were working on calibrating their use of work-study practices. So it was a very packed 2 days. I didn't mention, but our thanks to the PTO for, again, providing a meal for the teachers, because they do conferences pretty back-to-back from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. on Monday. I'm only going to mention the upcoming events in the calendar. Some have passed. But tomorrow, grade 4 is visiting the State House and the New Hampshire Historical Society Museum. We did work out our conflict with the concert with the middle school, so we're going to begin our concert at 6:30, and they're pushing a half hour early, and they're pushing theirs half hour later, so that parents won't have to choose which child to see. And we have a snow date of the 13th. The Student Holiday Store, sponsored by the PTO, is happening on December 18th. And the last thing is the PTO Holiday Luncheon for the staff on the 21st. And that's it.
Tina, do you want to give a little shout out to your top 3 here as far as your raise craze? Mrs.
My
Thompson.
top 3?
Well, Mr. Thompson has on his report. We have the principal of the day. I take it this is what each of these students collected?
Oh, yes. Yes. The top 3 earners, I would say, or the kids who brought in the highest donations were James Algio, who chose to be principal for a day. And based on your tweets, it looked like a fantastic day.
It was fun.
Yeah, he is adorable. And I think he's a mini Mr. Thompson.
He said this is the best job ever. You can make so many kids happy, because he was handing out Tiger tickets right and left.
And he's an amazing
great.
And he
wrestler.
wanted a radio.
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
the walkie-talkie.
He wanted
Yes.
a radio
Yes.
at the playground.
God.
Smart boy.
Yeah, so,
His
yeah.
brother John brought in $800, so he picked a coloring pouch that had crayons and markers and colored pencils, which was perfect for him too, I think. And then, actually, their cousin, Ben Reiki, chose a class snack party with a police officer. So Officer Brian Allaire from Londonderry Police Department brought in a snack for his whole class, which was very sweet. And then Hunter Joseph did 64 AOKs. He was our leader, and he chose an iPad mini. Kate Silver had 44. She chose lunch with her favorite staff member. And Ethan Bellino had 42, and he chose three day passes to Vertical Dreams. And all of our prizes were donated, either by parents or local businesses, or we just kind of made them up and made Mr. Thompson do them for us. So, so it didn't eat any of our profits except for the Weeples. The Weeples were the only expense.
That's great.
For a race craze. So everybody seemed to be very happy with their prizes. It was great.
All right. Does anybody have anything for Mrs. Thompson? Not, then we'll move on to Mr. Lecklider.
Okay.
Middle school.
Thank you. So it's been busy. You'll hear some similar threads in my report. We had our Veterans Day breakfast and ceremony. We had, again, a record turnout every year. This thing gets bigger and bigger. This year we had an overflow room into the art room. Most of it happens in the fax room, the breakfast. And then Mr. Monaco was our guest speaker this year. He's an Air Force veteran. Meredith Spots was our student essay winner. She read to the poem that she wrote to the school. The band played, the chorus sang. It was a really nice event. And I believe we had upwards of 35 or so veterans with us and their families. So it was a really special event. You heard about Lego Robotics. That's really been a highlight. And, one of the neat things about it is we spend a lot of time every day in our morning announcements talking about sports, talking about drama club, talking about different activities that are happening, but it's been really neat for these kids to really, build some school spirit, be proud of what they're doing, be so connected to the school, and so we've had a lot of fun with that during the day with our announcements, and just they're very proud. You saw the shirts, the buttons, and everything. So it's been really a big part of our spirit. They're going to be recognized at our pep rally in a couple of weeks, so it's been fun. Doing Your Best Breakfast, our quarterly recognition for our core values: believe in yourself, extend a helping hand, show respect, take responsibility. We highlight those core values, and then we put on breakfast for the kids you see in the report there. We'll be recognized next week by our student council. And then just a couple other quick notes here. We had upwards of 800 items donated for our Make a Difference food drive in November. Mrs. Late has nominated or recommended 11 students for auditioning for the New Hampshire Honors Band. That's a high number, actually, 11 students. And her percentages are pretty good, numbers of kids that audition and make the band. So I'll update that in January. We had a nice honor. One of our teachers, Ms. Garrett, teaches 8th grade language arts, was asked to make a full-day presentation on StudySync, which is our English language arts resources. It's a very rigorous resource. There's a lot to it. It's a digital-based, web-based program. But Jess has been an instructional leader in our building for a while with this, and it was just a nice moment for her. She kind of got a flavor of what it's like to be on the other side of professional development, walking into a district and putting that on. So it was a really positive experience, and wanted to recognize her for that. We had our parent conferences, as Scott mentioned. It was a long day, but we got through. I believe each team had about 65 slots, so that means there is overflow that they accommodate parents as they need into December. They're continuing that. As far as curriculum and instruction, on our teacher workshop day, Cassie Iackley presented to the GMS and the LMS staff. She is an expert in student resilience and social emotional needs of students. It was really heavy material, a lot of scientific data and things like that. We went back to the building and did some processing as a staff just on how this works in a classroom, how to meet the needs of kids' social emotional needs in the classroom, particularly at the middle level. She really focused on students really need to be in a healthy place socially and emotionally in order to be learners in a classroom, and just different strategies around that. So it was very productive and a good day. PBIS, of course, is our positive behavior program. We are doing a lot with resiliency on that this year. We have kind of a fun thing. You've heard about the Learning Commons. We're doing integrity right now is our theme this month. We're talking about integrity. We're talking about what that is, what that looks like. And then we are having a meme contest. Not sure, I don't know what a meme is, but a meme is an image with text to it. It's becoming actually a device that can be used. It's got some educational value. I recently went to a technology workshop, and one of the sessions was actually on how to use things like memes in your classroom. But we are putting on a school contest for integrity-themed memes. I will update that and report back in January on our winners. But Amy in the library has put together a web page for the kids to go to, kind of how to do this and what the parameters are. There are parameters around this, and keeping everything appropriate and so forth. And it is on integrity. So more to come on that, and I'll update that in January. I want to spend a minute on the one-to-one model that's coming for our 8th grade. So first of all, we are very excited, and I want to thank you for your support around the one-to-one model for the middle school in general, but the 8th grade very soon is going to, they will receive their Chromebook. So if you're an 8th grade parent, you received a message today. I've been working very closely with Jason Pelletier. Mike Perez has actually been a great resource. Obviously, he's been involved in this, the depth of this, so it's been nice working with him on what's going well and some of the challenges at Campbell with the rollout. And then Martha and I have been working closely on just some of the logistics around that. So January 4th is a Thursday evening. That's going to be the distribution night. Similar to Campbell, we're going to do a presentation, and then the parents will be able to receive the Chromebook that night, parents and students. Similar to Campbell, there'll also be an insurance piece to this, because we're about halfway through the year. Instead of $20, it'll be $10 per family. And then the students will have that for the remainder of the school year. It looks like that same device will be the device that they bring with them next year to Campbell as 9th graders. So in many ways, and I mentioned this in my message today to the parents, in many ways this is really going to be a great way to bring one-on-one into the middle school next fall, but to really start that this year. As I mentioned, we have many web-based curriculum resources already, StudySync, Project Lead the Way, Big Ideas, and similar to GMS, our teachers have been doing a lot of collaborating around different apps and different websites and things that can bring learning to life for kids. So we're very excited about that. And I'll update you in January on where we are, but January 4th is the distribution night. Learning Commons, we continued to do a lot with that. Amy and I went to a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and we got a tour of the Southern New Hampshire University Learning Commons, which is very impressive. They've recently opened, and they welcome people to come and take tours. But it was neat to see the other side of Learning Commons at the college level and sort of what we at the middle school are preparing them for. So we got a lot out of that, and we're integrating some of those ideas into our model. I'm going to skip ahead to Alice training. Mr. Isbicki and I have been working together with Alice the company, not the person, on the training that will happen in March. So the date of the on-site training is March 13th. That's the teacher workshop day. Prior to that, all staff will have a 1-hour online course training that then culminates in a certificate. They have to have that certificate in order to participate in the on-site training in March. So we're doing some prep work around the schedule and what that will look like, but this will be important for our emergency operations plan, for the district, the buildings, and it will get us better in line with up-to-date protocols around emergency management. Finally, on the calendar, if you have nothing to do and your child doesn't mind you coming, we have our Friday, we have our dance, our next school dance from 6:30 to 8:30. Should be a popular event, and I believe that's all I have.
Any questions from Mr. Leckler?
Thank you.
Thank you. That will bring us to CHS.
Good evening. It's going to sort of be a refrain along the same way as Tom and Scott have presented, starting with recognizing, I think, some students and some achievements that we've had over the course of the last month. We did induct 21 students into our National Honor Society, and Denise Freeman, their advisor, did a terrific job, as she always does, with that ceremony. So I do want to mention names. I apologize for that. But Isaac Boucher, Olivia Carlson, Sophia Chabub, Emily Coughlin, Mercedes Diaz, Caden Deviney Doyle, Allison Dyack, Caitlin Egan, Megan Gibbons, Rachel Goldstein, Jessica Grandine, Katrina Hubbard, Luke Hogan, Alex Jositis, Jared McDonald, Lauren McInerney, Jack Munnelly, William Randolph Jr., Zach Russo, and Robert Schaff, and Noah Vaughn. Congratulations to all of those students.
Congratulations.
We're really pleased with them and what they've been able to accomplish. Also want to say congratulations to Rachel Goldstein for the 3rd year in a row, making All-State Girls Chorus this time. Previously, she made the All-State Mixed Chorus. This year, it's the Girls Chorus, so there you go.
Other way around?
Oh, is that what it is? All right, well, congratulations to her. Yes, absolutely. We're proud of her. We had 2 members of our CHS student body who actually go to Auburn and participate with their FFA team. They participated with that team and earned a gold medal at the FFA National Convention in the Veterinary Science Competition. So we're really thrilled with that. And then Riley placed silver individually and Julia placed gold. So we're really pleased with their accomplishments as well. Yep. Athletics, we had a great fall season. So our girls cross-country team repeated, not for the first time, but for the second time, repeated as Division III state champions. We're thrilled with that. Jeffrey Allen was the Division III boys individual cross-country champion, and the boys football team were undefeated and state champions as well. So hearty congratulations to all of them. It's a pretty successful season for all the athletes. Do want to mention briefly the Make a Difference food drive. I don't have numbers on that right now, but it was, again, a really successful drive at all 3 schools. So I'm really pleased with our student council and Sean McDonough and the work that they've done, but also with all of our students and our faculty and our staff and our parents for helping other people have a little bit better opportunity here at this time of year. I'd like to say parent-teacher conferences went really well. One of the nice things about parent-teacher conferences is we have a terrific PTO, and they feed us so well. And so they provided a great buffet, cold sandwiches and salads and all that type of stuff. And it's really appreciated when you're talking about being at school from 7:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. It's nice to have that kind of support from them. So it's a big shout out to them. I'd like to talk a little bit about college admissions. This has been a strong year. We've had 85 colleges come to Campbell High School this fall to speak with students and meet with them and talk about their programming and the opportunities out there. So Jody Callanan's doing a terrific job bringing people in. We had some good numbers of students submitting applications. So we had 30 students as of early November, and this wasn't all of our students, but 30 of them submitted a total of about 120 applications, which is on average about 4 each. but as of the end of the month, 41% of the senior class have submitted college applications, and that number will rise up now as we get into winter and into the spring, so we'll see more of that. I wanted to give a shout-out for something that occurred early in the fall. When it was tournament time for our volleyball team, the girls' team was, it was right in the middle of the power outage, so the only power we had at the school here was the generator. And so you can't have the kids in the school when you don't have your normal power sources. So I want to thank Tom for providing the opportunity for our girls to go over to the middle school for practice time. We were kind of scrambling, and he said, absolutely sure. They know it, and he just made sure that we were set. So I appreciate the middle school cooperating with us on that.
As long as you let us win the staff tournament this year, Bill, that's all set.
Well,
That's all set. No
okay,
problem.
then.
No
I
problem.
take back the expression of appreciation. Just a shout out to some of the creative and interesting things that Justin Ballou and Nate Cooper did in their psychology classes. They have the kids doing some real world experiments with people, and it's kind of unique to see those happening. And I actually, I don't think I have a very good sensory perception of things, but I went up there and I killed the taste test, okay? I knew it was raspberry, everything that I was tasting in those different colored glasses there. But it's really creative, and the other thing is the kids are having a great time, and the other classes are coming up and participating in that. So I think it's a kind of an opportunity to do some real-world stuff with the kids. That's good for students, it's good for teachers, and it's good for administrators to see those things happening.
My freshman mentioned it.
Your freshman mentioned it.
He's watched it, he was intrigued.
Was he?
Yeah.
You use that word, huh? Nice.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
there are some creative things going on, absolutely. Yeah. Mike, Jody, and I, and Rachel, our school nurse, we sort of had that heads up about talking about naloxone and the opioid epidemic, so we reached out to Lisa Vasquez from the National Public Health Department, and she came in and gave us some really interesting information on what the opioid epidemic actually looks like, and then trained us in the administration of Narcan. And it's a rather simple thing, but at the same time, it's something that we don't necessarily want to be dealing with that in schools, but you want to be prepared in case you have those circumstances. So it's one of those other things. It's interesting, I think, as a professional sometimes, the things that we do, and they sometimes creep far beyond what we've been professionally trained for. But at the same time, it's something that you can't close your eyes or block your ears or anything like that. I want to mention our NEASC study. I think our staff is very appreciative that we've reached the end of the self-study component of that. It does free us time now to do some more the appropriate professional development work on curriculum and assessment and instruction. But the self-study in terms of the drafting is complete. Now the two chairs, Erin and Heidi, are going to begin taking over the drafting and making sure that we have the evidence in preparation for when the NEASC visitation committee comes in May. I just spent some time on a visitation, and I will tell you, I'm excited about what this team will come in and find when they come to Campbell. So that'll be a good time for us. I did want to mention that we're using our 22-minute advisories for some unique celebrations within the school, and I think you need to celebrate your student accomplishments. One of the things which we did was Katie Callanan made an arrangement with the administration that if she were to raise over a certain amount of money, we would have to undertake some tasks that we weren't necessarily interested in undertaking. So she raised her $2,300, and so her mom, our guidance director, had to have her hair dyed, a pretty bluish black. That Mike Perez and Jared Mills had to wear these very, very attractive princess dresses for the remainder of the day, and I got my hair cut. So,
shaved.
So we wanted to.
You got away easy.
I did get away easy. I did. I didn't agree to have it, bicked. That's for sure. But again, we want to use that time to recognize some of the things going on in the school. So we also use that as a time to celebrate the football team, Rachel's accomplishments, cross country, and Jeffrey Allen's accomplishments with the cross country race. So it's been a terrific month of November, and looking forward to continuing it in December.
Excellent.
Great.
Yep.
Any questions for Mr. Lonergan? I'll just add, first, as far as to both CHS and, LMS and GMS, that both Veterans Days presentations were excellent. They always are. I mean, every year I've gone to them, I mean, it seems like they get a little bit better each time. It certainly seemed like the numbers were up as far as the veterans that were in attendance in both schools. So it is, I think everyone does a fabulous job as far as the presentations. And I just want to put a shout out and congratulations to both the cross-country team and definitely the football team as far as on their victories. So, yeah, it's been a good month. Next is we talked about this a couple of meetings ago, as far as the list of qualified. Committee reports. All right, committee reports. And then we'll go to them.
The Budget Committee met last Thursday evening and voted on several cuts to our proposed budget, including, I think this is in your report too, Corey.
Yep.
Is that right? Including the costs allotted for full-day kindergarten. And it was very explicitly stated that they hoped the school board would agree to put that as a warrant article. So that was the reasoning behind the removing that from the budget.
If I'm not mistaken, in listening to their presentation, that every member on that budget committee was in favor of kindergarten.
Right.
But wanted on a warrant article.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a couple questions on that. So in 2005, the voters voted 56% to 44% to enact kindergarten in the district. They voted on that based on building out a new kindergarten building, receiving funds from the state, outfitting the classrooms, along with the same process of building a new elementary school. But it was its own separate warrant article, and the voters voted in kindergarten. The chairman of the budget committee, if not the chair of the school board at the time, was a senior spokesman for the school board through all of that. So I'm very disappointed in that chairperson, for one, either not recognizing that fact and straightening out members of the budget committee who strongly were saying the voters needed to vote. Well, the voters voted. And the voters, using a budget committee thought process, which just makes me shudder, they like to say that if the voters voted, then the voters voted. You know how they like to beat us up with that petition warrant article on teachers' positions, of which the voters never voted for, they just had an opinion on. This was an actual vote of the citizens of Litchfield. And the fact that the 5 members who seem to be voting very strongly against the will of 2 members on the budget committee, in some instances, were allowed themselves to not have enough information to make a informed decision, I think, is very disappointing. In fact, it wasn't until I was talking to Michelle about this, so some of this is Michelle backfilling for me. It wasn't until Dr. Cutler came in and we were right up against the state mandate that we actually started the kindergarten program, I think in 2007 or 2008. And the school board, at numerous times through 2010 until I left the board, and now again I'm back on the board, discussed full-time kindergarten. And a part of the process that we had in our discussions at the time, and even in discussions with the budget committee, was that since the state wasn't funding it at as an full adequacy aid person, only a 50% individual, again, we can argue that they would not support it, And the school board never felt compelled enough, I don't believe, to bring it back as a warrant article. I'd asked Michelle, I thought we had, but she said she didn't think we did. And so, I guess tomorrow when you guys meet with the budget committee, you should strongly inform the 5 members who decided to vote against the will of the citizens of Litchfield and decide that the kindergarten program is no longer something that the citizens of Litchfield want. Because they now, 6 members of a board voted to discontinue the growth of kindergarten. And while Litchfield was one of the last towns in the state to actually implement kindergarten, we now find ourselves in the bottom 15 percentile of the state of not implementing full-time kindergarten. And as a taxpayer, I'm very disappointed in the budget committee. I feel that as a school board, we should, granted they'll have the last word, but I don't feel that we should need to put positions that we think are warranted as a warrant article anymore, because, you know, they voted that what the voters want shouldn't really matter. You know, the school board is, as best they can, have honored that request of the budget committee over the last 13 years, I believe. And but here, the budget committee truly changed the direction of our town. And while I understand that they believe that we should put it on a warrant article, the fact remains, as Dr. O'Neill or Superintendent O'Neill has shared with us, and we have received an information, the fact is that students who have full-time kindergarten are better prepared for first and second grade. And when they're not as prepared, and we have students at different levels in first grade and second grade. So I would, again, encourage the school board rep to speak strongly to the budget committee about this. They still have time to fix their error. And now the school board will have to decide what's the best way to go forward on this.
So John, what was voted? Was it for part-time kindergarten or full-time kindergarten?
Full-time kindergarten at the time. It was built 4 classrooms, and the warrant article says, shall the Litchfield School District vote to implement public kindergarten no later than the fall of 2008 and accept $851,643 in reimbursement of 75% of the cost of constructing, furnishing, and equipping kindergarten classrooms. The Litchfield School District will not be asked to appropriate the sum for public kindergarten until the 2007 school district meeting, where they will be asked to raise by taxation 25% of the project, or $283,881.
So it doesn't designate full day or half day.
Implement public kindergarten. That's what it says. Public kindergarten. You don't need to read half day or full day. Because the bottom line was the state has always wanted full day kindergarten. They started small. And Litchfield is in a disappointment with the budget committee, because most of the veteran members there all know this. It sometimes is very slow in making sure that the education opportunities for our kids are in the front part of that process instead of following the train. And again, we're on the caboose part of the train right now for kindergarten, and we're going to have to go through another process here when inevitably it didn't have to do that. Everything was aligned. We had teachers available to restructure resources. We were able to go out and get some classrooms. We have the place for the classrooms. Everything was in place, so it was not a large impact to the taxpayers. It was, our budget was what, 2.5% change from one year to another, and we were implementing enlarging the kindergarten program. And you know, it's not going to be that way. Won't be that way next year. We're now going to try to go ask them to add $500,000 or so, or $550,000 for full-time kindergarten. So we'll have to go through the whole process of explaining it. Yet the people who actually fully have the experience and have all the information, the school board and the budget committee, because they have all the information we have, and are voted in to make very difficult decisions that they believe are fair to the taxpayers. And I believe that this is a very fair program to the taxpayers. And you know, I know for a fact that the state wants kindergarten full-time in all their towns and cities. It may not be voted in with the present governor because he's not into the mandate process. But it's going to get as strongly worded as humanly possible coming out of Concord for towns that don't have it to get on it and get it done. And I think it's a shame that we'll go into our could go into 2018 or 19 without full-time kindergarten. And
I think we have a little further discussion with this. More into it. Can you make sure you forward that warrant to Tina? Or give it to her? That way she'll have it tomorrow. So Tina, I know they also cut something from athletics.
Yes,
Did they specify what they were cutting?
they did. $10,000 from pre and postseason transportation was cut.
They assume that we wouldn't always make playoffs is the thought process behind that.
And it was pointed out that we did quite well this year.
I was going to say, didn't
Yeah.
every team in the fall make the playoffs?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was pointed out.
Yes.
And the vote was 3-2-2 to cut that, so that passed. And then $30,000.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Who abstained?
Dennis.
Dennis and Jen, because they
Both of them
are,
have-
they have a
sports.
conflict of interest, yeah. And then another 30,000 was cut from citing vacant stipends in co-curricular activities and athletic activities. And then at the very end, and that vote was 4-1-2, with the same two abstaining. And then at the very end was 11,500 from building services, citing a few different sections there. 2,000 was from sewer and grease traps, 5,000 from, I guess, a total of 10,500 from LMS and GMS electrical. I'm not sure.
They specify
I think it was about, do you remember, Cory? I think it was about
Based on three-year averages.
three-year averages. and
In
it
terms of electricity, really.
cost for electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But cost of electricity, three-year averages, that really doesn't apply in that case, I don't
Right.
believe. You know, because rates go up each year. They could go down, but most likely they're going up.
Yeah. You have something to add?
I just want to make a clarification. I just want to make sure that we keep in mind that in developing this budget, Corey and Holly had already cut $200,000 from our transition money from the previous year in trying to reduce the fund balance at the end of the year. And of the $494,000 that was cut from the kindergarten program, $150,000 of that was also from reduction in line items internally to try to reduce the fund balance. So without doing anything more, we've already reduced our overall, let us just say, potential fund balance by $350,000. And our fund balance this past year was
What we returned was 500,000, but that takes into account the spend-aheads from the previous year. So had we not done the spend-aheads or encumbrances, or however you want to look at it, probably would have been between $600,000 and $700,000.
So I just want to keep in mind, so let's just say it was $650,000 total amount of money at the end of the year. We've already cut $350,000 of that money out of the budget, which means at best, if we had a similar year, we would only have a $300,000 fund balance at the end of that year. I want to remind us that in a $24, $25 million budget, that's just barely 1% plus of the total budget. And to have only a 1% plus of the total budget not already specified in line items, I think is getting very, very scary. I think that's the only way I can put it, because it doesn't take too much to have to expend. A roof is $150,000, a boiler system is $80,000, $90,000, and although we have some money in our capital budget, there's only $100,000 in that. So we're getting to the point where we're getting more than tight, we're getting extremely tight, and I want to make that very public. Thank you.
Anything else from budget?
No. No. Just all that.
Just all.
You should come.
Yeah, well, I'm good. If I didn't have kids, I wouldn't. Probably just as well I don't come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you take the minutes, I'll babysit your kids.
So then it'll bring us back to, we spoke as far as math courses, and we have now the list of qualifying classes that would fall into that category. And I know that the board has had them for several weeks now, so I didn't know if there were any questions for Mr. Lonigan while he's here. If there's questions as far as whether or not some of those courses actually are.
I have a
Some-
question.
yeah.
Where did you get, this might be a naive question, but how did you decide that, like woodworking, I understand they use a ruler and they cut with numbers that I don't, in angles, I can't even.
Yep.
How, is this what all high schools use? Like if I were to call Londonderry, they count woodworking as a math credit?
No.
Okay.
No, and there are some challenges here. I actually reached out to the principals that I work with, and I received some information back. And it was kind of conflicting in some cases with some of them. But at Goffstown, for example, college physics, AP physics, chemistry, college chemistry, AP chemistry, personal finance, accounting 1 and 2, those are familiar. All IT and computer education courses, all of them. So any of those qualify. All art courses. All Manchester School of Technology courses. So anything that said MST would qualify.
Really?
Well,
So
those
the
would be
preschool program?
career and technical programs, probably not necessarily their English classes or some of those other things. I also received Alverns as well, and science. Many of those align with ours, but I have some courses that they don't give credit for, so I think it's worth discussing those. For example, if I can look through quickly here. These schools either don't have astrobiology or they don't give credit for it. They either don't have honors anatomy and physiology. I would presume that they have an honors anatomy, or at least an anatomy and physiology. They don't give credit for that. Pinkerton gives credit for their environmental science course, but I did not see it in any other program, so we have an environmental science course. Let's see.
What about music?
No, music courses, none of the schools listed music courses as qualifying.
And we do.
Well, we do, but we don't need to.
Okay.
And I think that's, basing this on two courses, I'm not that comfortable with
That was my question, was music.
Yeah,
I'm
well.
not musical, I'm just
No,
asking.
no. Yep.
I saw in some of the information that you gave us, I think it was Pinkerton had a pretty, was it 30% of the course
Yes.
content has to be math related or
Correct.
applied
Yep.
math.
Yep.
And I think it might help us trim this down a bit
Yep.
if we decide on a firm.
What would that rigor look like? in
Right,
terms of
exactly,
math
because I don't,
concepts applied in
you
the
know,
class?
I love art and I love music, but I'm not sure that, you know, is concert band, is a 1-credit course in concert band equal to a 1-credit course in pre-calc, or?
And I don't know that that's the argument. You know, I think the question is math content or mathematic rigor. So would it be a competency within the mathematics area? So you would have to cover at least one of those competencies.
Right. And I know there is a lot of math involved in music and
Would
art.
it be introductory algebraic concepts? I'm not sure.
It's kind of like bending it.
What's that?
It seems like we're kind of like, we bend it a little bit. It's almost like we have there's almost like a broad understanding, just like the default budget. It's almost like you, depending who you ask, you're going to get a different answer.
Correct. Right, and I think you could do a real quantitative analysis here. We're limited by time, and that's the challenge. So I have a comfort with us making a decision in the next month and saying, right now, music's out, unless I get some corresponding information from other schools and some information about what constitutes mathematics content in music courses. I have a fairly strong sense with the number of these that we should.
Trim it down, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we should
Well,
trim it down.
you know, and you know, I'm guessing that the reason for having the 4th-year requirement in math is to encourage students to take more math courses.
Absolutely.
You know, as it is right now, my daughter would have her 4 years of math easily.
Yes.
You know, by taking band.
Sophomore year.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be done sophomore year.
And it's also interesting how it's phrased. They don't say 4 years, okay?
Credits.
It's 4 courses in mathematics. And I don't have the statute off the top of my head, but I think it's a minimum of 4 courses in mathematics, or a minimum of 3 mathematics courses and 1 non-mathematics, blah, 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 blah.
Embedded.
Right, with math-embedded concepts. So it isn't, I mean, when this was first explained, it was math in every year of high school. Well, it's not. It's 4 courses in mathematics.
So 8th grade math would count for some students, like
It could, if you're getting high school credit for it, and then boom, boom,
Well,
boom,
Algebra
boom.
1 counts.
What's that?
In
Algebra
the
1
middle
counts
school.
because
Right, right,
because you
right,
get
right.
high school credit for
Right,
that.
right.
Yep. Yep.
So who presently is on the team reviewing the present list of
Administrative
classes?
team?
Yeah, I mean,
Jody and I.
so would it not be a good idea to maybe bring the curriculum director in
I've-
on that?
Well, actually, they're the ones who forwarded classes along to me and recommended classes to us. So, arts did, music did, the technology program, science. I don't believe we had any from social studies. I don't believe we had any from English.
So just a thought, though, you might want to involve someone from the math department, too. I just think it would be wise to have someone from the math department determine whether or not a course is...
I'm trying to bend that music.
It's going
Take
to
that off
be
the break.
a comprehensive review, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're going to send something out to, let's say, Mrs. Light and ask how heavy she
Well,
thinks the math
and-
content is in
Well, and
music?
they've already given me some justification for
Okay.
that. However, what is the practice out there in the state of New Hampshire? I have 2 responses from schools. I'm familiar with Pinkerton's because that was passed along to me. So I have 3 that are sort of giving me a range, but I don't have confidence that that's the practice across the
Did you reach out to the Department of Education for clarification?
I
Ooh,
can.
you don't want to
yes.
ask that question. That's the wrong question.
No, I just asked if he has.
No, I have not. No, I have not. And Nancy and I, we haven't talked about that, but maybe we
I
can
don't think
find
we-
out up there.
You never know what the bear's
I can
going to
get-
do.
I can get you Bo's information.
You know, I think
Bill, for me, the proof in the pudding is the term math embedded concepts and what the criteria are that you define that meet that math embedded concept. Does that mean they have to be specific, explicit math embedded concepts that correlate to our curriculum? I mean, what does math embedded concepts mean? I think you have to develop a set of criteria, and then it's up to the individual courses to present math embedded concepts that meet your criteria. Because I think right now, that's where we're stumbling.
Because the statute is pretty open.
It's very
up for your
unclear.
own
And
And I think that's where you have to
interpretation.
define,
Yeah.
what does that mean to Campbell in terms of, what does math embedded concepts mean to you?
us.
And what are the criteria that teachers have to demonstrate?
Or would you like us to define that? I guarantee you we could come up with a great definition from 4 school board members, or 5 school board members.
I'm sure
for
you could.
I bet you we could trim this list down really quickly, too.
Well, and I'd be comfortable with that in some ways, but I think there ought to be
I don't think
some
you
sort
want
of
these
a
guys to do
quantitative
that.
analysis of what's involved in these courses.
Start throwing darts and stuff, you know?
And I just want to make it, also, I want to state that I believe there is a lot of math in music, and I believe that there's a lot of math in art, but I think it's in specific components in music, or specific courses in music, or specific courses in art. And I think there's a lot of math in all of your practical applied courses that you do. And so I'm not saying I'm not for getting those in, I'm just saying for explicitly defining the criteria and then telling us what are the concepts that are embedded in the course, fine. That would be at least how I'd look at it.
See, and I agree with that, because when I was looking through the math things, and my son's in a math program, I thought, to me, all the math programs, one that talks about the student who may want to go on for music as a career, where the theory of music was going to, I thought that would be the one where math could be,
Everybody's plugged in.
would be used. But I didn't so much see it in the other ones. And, so that's,
Right, and that's the challenge, I guess, when
I mean, personally, I believe that, I think not speaking for all the school board, I'm speaking for myself, I believe I'd like kids taking math classes. And if that means that we have to find ways to, accounting classes, I'm okay with that. But it was funny, when I read through accounting, it read literally, accounting 1, if you open it up, it says, right on the bottom, cannot be used as a math class. Does it not say that? Right under,
I'm sorry, I was
if
having
you go to accounting,
Yep.
right on the bottom of it says,
Yeah.
not to be used as a math substitute.
Well,
But you go to accounting 2, to be used as a math substitute class.
There's
So,
more numbers in accounting.
I think that, and I understand we're trying to touch across all of our students. We want the students who struggle in math, we want to give them an opportunity to get their 4 math classes in areas that are important to their successes and stuff. And then we have the students that are going to go out and go to the business world, join the military, they may have a different set of math. And then the ones that go out to business, the ones that go off, whatever the different degrees are they're going to do in college, may have a different math program. But I think that we want to, we want to encourage 4 years of math. If they want to take art, if they want to take music, that's why we have a lot of electives.
What are your thoughts on woodworking, then?
I mean, you got to know, if you're going to want to be a carpenter,
Yeah.
you got to know how to measure and cut wood
Angles
and
and stuff like
angles
that.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Rise over
So
ground
I'm
and
not
geometry.
against that type of class, but it's got to be, are they building something that is using those skills? Are they measuring and doing angles, and
Yeah.
are they doing that type of programming there? And so I think, along with you, Jim, they have to come up with a criteria and then make sure all of the
Guidelines, yep.
curriculum, all of the syllabus that goes along with that class meets that requirement.
I think the other thing that happens in doing that too is it makes the teaching practice and the pedagogical practices aware that this is an expectation.
Right.
And you build that into it, not in a harsh way or in any way, but I love woodworking, I do a lot of it, and I use geometry, I use mathematics, I use all kinds of, calculations all the time. Now, some of them, I don't explicitly sit down, but if you ask me to give you how math is related, it would be very easy for me to do. So I think it's not a hard task, just a little time-consuming, but I think it'd be worth doing, so I agree with you, John.
Hey, John,
That was a long way of saying I agree with you, John.
I don't think we ever would have used that as a math credit anyway. I think that, I'm not even sure why that would have
Did
been
you,
in there.
but you said, yeah.
But the accounting too wouldn't have been used for a math credit in previous.
Okay.
No,
All right.
Not at all, yeah.
But I just found that interesting, that it was on the list,
Yeah.
and then it said you couldn't use it.
Well, you'd need a qualified teacher in mathematics to consider your accounting course, and then you'd have to have the math standards in there. Yeah, I'm not even sure why that's there.
So we'll wait for the updated list then at this point.
Yes, yep.
Thank you. Now bring us to Mr. Zbicki and our finance updates.
So the finance update pretty much goes back to the committee reports of the budget committee. It breaks down all the numbers that were part of the reduction that was made last Thursday night. A couple things to note within that. I had put out a budget update on November 15th that added an amount into the construction costs of the kindergarten classrooms for $13,150. That was not included in the cut when they made the reduction. So I've taken that into account with my reconciliation as well. Also, we did receive the quote for Primex property liability insurance. There's a reduction in that of about $19,000 that would come out of the proposed budget and the default budget as a contractual obligation. Where it stands right now, our operating budget after the reductions that have been made stands at 0.17% above FY18's approved budget. We are also $461,000 below where the calculated default is. So those are the updates in terms of budget. I've provided some spreadsheets along with it, giving my reconciliation of what accounts were specifically hit with the reductions, where the budget was when we started the budget committee process to where it stands now with the budget committee's votes. I've also provided the draft default with notes.
Yep.
Explaining how I did some of the calculations in there. And just how that compares from year to year and percentages, increases, and such. If there's any specific questions related to that.
Anyone have any questions on the default budget?
Brian, what's going on?
I'm waiting to see if anyone has any questions. Everyone seemed to like start looking at it, that's why I was waiting. I didn't fall into a fog.
That's my job.
That's the,
Can I pass that on to the budget committee now?
Yeah, I was gonna ask for a motion. No questions? So we're all set with the default?
So the default is 22,806?
Million.
22,806,000?
yep, that would be the gross default. This is a draft of the default. If things do come up along the way, up to the point when we get to voting, I think reductions can still
So-
be made.
If we know we're going to have a reduction in staff because of whatever the projections are, I think you have to remove those people out of default, no?
No.
Default
Stays in,
is-
it's contractual, and so it stays in there.
I'm pretty sure of that also, John.
Previous year's appropriations.
Right.
And I think,
And
Plus or minus contractual obligations.
I think the board could direct the administration to make those, but there's no legal requirement to make those. And my advice would be to not make them and keep the default budget the actual amount that we had contractual obligations to going into the next fiscal year.
Questions? So, next is, well, before we go off the default budget, so looking at default in comparison to what our right now budget is, yeah, you got a couple of choices. We push for what our budget is, or we push for the default budget. I don't necessarily know if it's the right thing to do as far as push for a default budget where it's not our budget. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if we want to start that fight with the public as far as to push the default budget.
Well, I guess the question becomes, we're not going to decide today because we don't know what it is, but, you know, we've not supported the budget before. And by not supporting the budget, we're sending the message out that.
Oh, right, we can do it that way. I think we did it last year.
You know, I don't know, but you are going to vote, we are going to vote about whether we accept the budget coming out of the budget committee or not.
Which I believe last year we voted against it, or the year before. All right. So then we'll go.
I think, to some extent, there's, whether you don't vote in favor of the budget coming out of the budget committee, and do you vote, or do you push for the default budget in that case? And I think that hinges to some extent on what direction the board wants to take with kindergarten. Whether the board is looking at kindergarten as a warrant article, or if you had the default budget, would that be a budget that would favor kindergarten, in which case you wouldn't necessarily need a warrant article? Or are there other options that you might have? It seems to me it's a bit of a complex question that you have to make a decision about how you want to handle the whole question of not just the default versus the budget committee budget, but how do you want to handle kindergarten going forward next year? And I think that is a question that you have to make an answer on.
You would fight this on a couple of fronts, I think. First front, you would again appeal to the budget committee through the next few meetings to realize what the process is and how their vote goes against the will of the voters in Litchfield. Along with that, you would also draft a warrant article that you would have on there. But at the first meeting in February, the school board would move to put back into the budget $500,000 or whatever it is to fund that back into our budget and see if the voters in that room, based on the explanation that we give them, would agree, at which point in time we would then make a motion to remove the warrant article. Because whether the default budget goes through or our budget goes through, the funding would be there. So, I mean, I think that I don't think the first option will occur with the budget committee, so the next thing would be to fight it on the next two options. So that would mean that you know, we have to be prepared to have a very good presentation to the members of the community, and we need to reach out to the members of the community and hope to have a strong showing of citizens there at that first week of February or second weekend of February, whenever the meeting is. And then lastly, if that doesn't work, then you have another month of talking to citizens through all means possible.
I would agree with your analysis. I think there is, that is the board's decision.
So I guess my question on this, are they going to expect us to do this as different warrant articles? I mean, are they going to want us to do it as a building warrant article with outfitting the classrooms and then a staff warrant article because they're going to argue about that?
Article, it's a all or nothing type of warrant article, because if you get the building approved but you don't have the staff to go in it, what's the point?
Right.
Or you get the staff and then you don't have the building to put them in. You get the program but no building to put them in. So I think it's kind of an all or nothing approach when it comes to warrant article.
But I think de facto it is all or nothing, because no means no.
Right.
So it is an all or nothing, or, I mean, you can't have multiple warrant articles and risk that one would get rejected because then no means no. So you could have staffing and you could have the building, but you couldn't have any textbooks or anything else. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So it's a single warrant article that could be explicit.
That literally puts, not 18, 19, but that puts the 19, 20. So being, they literally could be putting kindergarten on hold till the year 2021 as you go through that process. Because, no means no.
Correct.
And now you have to, so in your next budget, you can't put it in your budget again, because you gotta wait a year.
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with that analysis. I think you cannot implement it, but I think you could go back to the voters the next sequential year and ask them to reverse their decision, which would allow you to implement in the next year. I think, I'm not sure, John, you're a community member much more than I am, but it seems to me no means no for that specific fiscal year.
We don't want to get into a no means no fight in Litchfield.
No, but I think it goes back.
Those of us that have been here a while know we don't want to get into that fight.
I think it's pretty simple though, John, and you said we have 2 ways of going about it. You can go back tomorrow night and let the budget committee know that we feel that they erred in their decision to not continue and expand kindergarten, or we put on a warrant article. And the tough part with the warrant article is positions that we were going to jockey around are going to seem like we're adding quite a bit of monies into the budget when we're actually not. It's a matter of just transferring monies.
Well, actually, the argument is that the budget would be the same as the default budget. This is the argument we're going to be able to have. It's a very good argument, is that the budget committee removed it. The budget would have been the same as the default budget. We don't understand why they removed it, because we kept the budget level funded. So the arguments that we can make are going to be numerous in our favor.
Thank you.
So I think in this case, they're all they're doing is, helping our argument. But the fact of the matter is that now it becomes an emotional charged issue instead of,
It's gonna be a
14
hot button.
educated people looking at the numbers correctly and making sound business decisions.
No, but I think presenting in the way you just said, John, is that we level funded the budget.
Yeah.
And we're able to incorporate full-day kindergarten. And
But that's why we level funded. So that
in order to do so. And I think that's why we need to educate the people who are listening right now, the people in the audience right now, and people going forward at deliberative. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to all, but I mean, it's pretty simple. We level funded to incorporate full-day kindergarten. All we're really doing is just expanding the program that the voters have already voted for. And the majority said they want kindergarten. And again, they didn't specify part-time, full-time, three-quarter time. So, I mean, it's already there. So it's going to be a fight. But I don't think that Tina's going to go to the budget committee tomorrow and ask for $500,000 back, and they're going to say, okay.
Well, all it takes is one of the members who voted in the affirmative to reopen the vote.
Yeah.
There was 7 of them. Now, you can't, because you voted against it, but any of the other members can reopen the vote.
You were the only one
and
who
then-
voted for it, right?
I voted against the cut.
You were
The
the
cut.
only
That's
one.
correct. Yes.
So the 6 is only the group, whoever voted in the majority, they're the only ones that can reopen it. So once one of them makes a motion to reopen the vote, then all the conversation can occur again.
That's
But if you can't get one person to reopen it, then.
Well, you actually need two, because you're gonna need someone to open and someone to
Well,
second.
Tina could second.
Right.
I believe. I
Yeah.
do believe she can second.
Should be able to.
I don't know that.
Town tomorrow.
Just, you know, the Budget Committee tomorrow night is focused on the town's budget, and the Budget Committee will meet next Thursday to focus on warrant articles and concluding the public school budget. So I certainly would like to have any conversation about this with the experts in the room. But certainly bringing it to their attention, I think, is valid, but I would like to have the experts in the room if there is going to be a motion to reopen that consideration. And I would also invite community members to be present that might want to have their voice heard at any reconsideration of the full-day kindergarten funds of $494,000 that were removed from our budget.
Might be more.
And I would also, bottom line, say that although $494,000 was removed, it is up to the board as to how they remove $494,000. They do not have to remove it from kindergarten. They could go full with full-day kindergarten in the coming year, but obviously that would have a significant impact on other programs.
Right.
But they cannot direct you as to specific things that you have to do. That's your decision.
Cross.
True, but it's like you just said, taking they didn't say no full-day kindergarten, they said $500,000, and to find $500,000 in other programs, it's not gonna happen.
I
know you
would
know
agree you would have to make significant changes in other programs which would impact systemically the district. I'd
Would
absolutely
we
agree
have
with
to lay off teachers? Because we wouldn't
Either
be sliding
way.
teachers back and forth.
Yeah, at this point in time, you would have 3 reductions in forces based upon the cuts by the Budget Committee. You would have, the way we're thinking right now, 2 at the middle school and 1 at the grade school. So you already have 3. If you were to go theoretically and try to find additional monies, even if we could somehow make that less than $500,000, you would have to lay off teachers without any question. How many? I would say a minimum of 2, possibly 3. We'd have to lay off maybe 4. And that would have a significant impact on your capacity to offer existing programs to students. And I wouldn't want to see us, the teachers we're removing from the middle school and the GMS are because of enrollment issues. Any other teacher would have to be removed, and the enrollment wouldn't be the driving force, it would be programmatic issues. And certainly, we don't want to weaken part of our system in order to strengthen another part. Bottom line, I will say again, however, is that money spent on early childhood is the best money you can spend as a public school. And I truly believe that what you spend on even pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first, second, and third grade is the best money you can spend. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are gonna go ahead and forward the default budget as it is, as a draft, to the Budget Committee, so they'll have it tomorrow. And when do we need to have our warrant articles to them?
I think they would be looking to review them on December 14th. Yeah. So I think we want to look at, Michelle provided a couple of drafts, warrant 1 and 2, showing one has 4 warrant articles on it, which would include the Special Services Coordinator and Capital Reserve Transfer. And the second one includes full-day kindergarten warrant article and the operating budget. So,
My initial thought was that I think we definitely want to send them the one that has the kindergarten on it. Because like I said, they're not gonna cough up $500,000 tomorrow.
Well, we're not under any pressure to give them warrant articles till our last meeting in December.
I don't think we're pressured to give it to them, John, but at the same time, I think we can make a decision right now. I mean, we already talked about it as far as we want full-day kindergarten. So I guess the next question is, then you brought it up the last time, as far as, you know, do we have the other 2 warrant articles now? We just added 1. So now we take a look at warrant articles number 3 and 4. Do we necessarily want those on there, or do we just want to go full out? full-day kindergarten?
Well, I think we still need this, well, I guess I'll ask, is the special services coordinator position still a critical need? It was last year. That's how I tried to sell it.
Well, it's not more important than
And full-day kindergarten. That's the question, is do we maintain the ones that are on here? Do we eliminate some of them? And just go for full-day kindergarten?
If you're gonna go full-day kindergarten, you definitely can't. I know, Corey, you got a great PowerPoint ready to go on that 2%, but, you know.
No, I think we had based
that's
on
a
the last
tough-
meeting, that was coming off.
That's a tough.
What's that?
The one with the,
The 2.5%.
2.5% contingency.
Yeah, that one's already removed, John.
It's gone.
I think it was on my update form on the list, but it's not included in
You have the
warrant.
capital reserve, the special ed, the full-day kindergarten, are essentially the warrant articles, I think, that,
Capital reserve didn't cost us anything, because it's just taking from, end-of-the-year funds, so if they're not there, they're not there. I mean, that's, I think, you know, since it seems that our budget's being trimmed and trimmed to as close to nail as it can be, this may be an important one to have on there. So I would say.
And it's listed as number 4 right now anyway, and there's no cost associated with it, like you said. It's just the year-end funds would be placed in there. So that's
may I say one more
You
thing?
may.
Mr. Chair? My understanding on the town side of their warrant articles is they're clearly going to go for a new fire station, and from this superintendent's eyes, they really need a new fire station. The fire station they have is totally inadequate for the community, beyond the issue of being able to store the fire engines and everything else. It's just not an adequate facility for Litchfield. So I fully support that. And in doing that, my understanding is that there is a zero financial impact in the next fiscal year on that warrant article. The fiscal impact starts in the second year of that warrant article. So on the town side of their warrant articles, I fully support the fire station. We need the fire station, but there's no fiscal impact next year. However, in subsequent years, as they draw down the note on the fire station, then there would be a fiscal impact on the tax rate. Is that, I mean, I'm looking at my BA, he's looking kind of squinchy at me, so, at any rate, but I believe that's accurate. So next year, to me, in terms of impacting tax rates, is the optimum year for us to get kindergarten in, because you won't have the double hit of both kindergarten and a new fire station on the taxpayer. So whatever you can do as a board, and I can do as a superintendent to get kindergarten implemented next year, I think that's absolutely an important consideration about the fiscal impact of the fire station. So thank you for indulging me.
Would you say the same of the special services coordinator?
I think the kindergarten is the most important, number one priority of the district, and I think we have to do whatever we can to make that very clear to the taxpayers. And as much as I believe that the special services coordinator is a very much needed position in the district, my first priority is kindergarten, and that's the best way I can answer that question.
Anyone else have any thoughts? We can send it to the budget committee, and find out what their vote is first.
I'm just, I'll hold those thoughts.
As a selfish, practical matter, the Budget Committee does have a meeting scheduled for the 28th of December. It's a flexible meeting, and that meeting's purpose would be to discuss warrant articles. If the warrant articles are discussed ahead of time, then there's a possibility that the Budget Committee would not need that 28th of December meeting and could conclude its business in their first meeting in January. And that's only stated probably somewhat self-serving, but just so you know, that is what I understand to be the case.
I mean, as far as like I would say removing any articles right now, we can send them to the budget committee. They can vote on them, then we can do what we want afterwards
The
anyway.
meeting on the 28th doesn't need any representative other than the school board rep. Sorry, Christine. But it doesn't need any, because all they're voting is whether they're going to vote yes or no on the warrant articles. I mean, there's really no,
Right.
they can't change them, they can't really do anything to them other than,
The team, and I need to express my deepest appreciation to the administrative team and other people that have been at all of the budget committee meetings. I know the evening load on administrators at this time of the year is very, very intense, and I certainly appreciate their being there, and I think having a team there has been a very important component of the budget committee's debates. So I just feel that team, we're in it together, we're all here, we're for the kids, is a really important message to send, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So does anyone have any thoughts as far as sending these off to the budget committee?
are we going to, Michelle, when's the latest that we can vote them? Can we vote them in the first week of January?
You can vote them in, warrant articles have to be posted by the end of by January 26th.
So we can just send them to them, we don't.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
have a time frame for voting,
You
how
should,
they're going to
you
vote.
should vote on them by, before deliberative, but.
Right.
No, I understand it,
That's
but
what
we
I'm-
don't need to.
No.
Not right
We
now,
don't
no.
need to vote on these
That's what I
today.
say.
When is deliberative?
Oh, John, that's what I was saying. Send it to them, let them vote on them, and we can decide what we want
And
to do
they have
after.
to have, well, I'm questioning, do we have to have voted on them before they do their meeting in the middle of January to present the budget?
It would be helpful for the school board to do that, so that community members who do come, in case you get a big crowd, will know how you feel about it, but
Okay, but we can hold off until our first meeting in January.
Yep.
To make a final vote on these, based on,
We can
how
even-
they vote,
we can
or
even
not
vote.
it's
vote.
the
We can even
board's
vote.
discretion.
We can even vote on, at our next meeting, John. That's what I'm saying, send them to them and let them feel them out. And then we can go from there as far as if we want to like eliminate something or change something. Does anybody feel any different?
So you want the one with the 4 on it to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that and the fall.
Just so I'm clear, the warrant has to be posted on the 10th of January.
No, the 26th.
But if you're going to vote, you have to post the warrant 30 days before you vote on it, don't you?
No.
Please double
Well,
check that.
but we have to, we can vote on the 3rd,
Right.
and that would be
I could be
plenty
wrong.
of time.
I just vaguely remember that, but we'll
But
check.
Jim, I do agree with you, I do believe that we have to have it
I think
wrapped
the
up by the
post
10th.
30 days before
We have to post
the SB2.
10 days before the budget committee meeting, which has to be
That I
held
don't know.
before the 3rd Wednesday after the 2nd Tuesday
I don't know.
I'll
No.
tell you.
That I don't.
On a leap year.
on a leap year
I
in
have it in my
January.
email.
What's that?
I said I have it in my
Yeah,
email,
you
I
should
just
They
have
sent it
to.
to us. Or
look it up.
Yeah, I don't have it with me. I do here, but
Michelle knows how to keep us on track.
Yeah. But we don't have to vote this evening, is the bottom
You
line.
do not have to
no,
vote
I know
this
that.
evening.
I agree with that.
But I'd say we send it to the budget committee, let them vote if they want to, let them have discussion. And, because we're not going to add anything to it at
Just
this
makes
point.
me, sending them that warrant article means that we're agreeing with them, and I have a problem.
No, and that's what Tina's going to represent as far as we're not agreeing with them. And if they don't give us $500,000 back tomorrow night, then we're going to fight for that $500,000 at deliberative and let the public know that, you know, we want the money.
Feel free to also write to the budget committee as a citizen and as a school board member.
Yeah.
I gotta be careful. I need somebody to scream what I say. It might scream and come across.
I think you pretty
big,
much left
bold
it all
letters.
out there tonight.
I did.
Does anyone have any other questions in reference to warrant articles? No? Okay. That will bring us to the manifest. Do we even have any manifest?
We do, it's sitting right here.
Right here. It needs another set.
So tiny.
Yeah.
I know.
Because we had a
It's
meeting
usually
last
like this
week.
big.
Oh, right,
We
right.
signed half of it last week.
All right, with that, it'll bring us to community forum.
Can I just ask quick about that math class?
Which
The
one?
intern of stats, and the PSAT prep. I think they're both great, awesome leaders. The intro to stats, is that a full year, half year?
Oh, I think.
Full year, so that
Yes.
would take the place of calc, anything like that. I think it's a great idea. Just to jump into is too much, so that's
Yep.
great. And the PSAT and the SAT prep, does that take the place of a study?
It would, well, it could fill a study slot for students, yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking of the population, so does this mean we have less juniors and seniors leaving early or arriving late because they've now chosen to do PSAT prep or SAT prep in their freshman, sophomore years, so they haven't filled the requirements for their, because I'm thinking if it's a study that we're filling, it doesn't impact the other classes, the other unified arts. If it's equivalent to a unified arts, when you see 100 kids go into that class, you're going to see 100 kids not go into art, not go into music, not go into computer classes until later on. So their juniors and senior year, all of a sudden, they're now going to be at school a little bit longer. They're not going to have some of those. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
It's difficult to know where it's going to fit in because you have two
It should be a
teachers who are
no-credit
going
class. It should be like a
to
study hall.
teach the class.
But it-
So their schedules, you have to get their schedules combined, and whether or not studies fit into that area, and thus we have students who are not.
No, but I'm
taking-
thinking parents making a choice. So I might make a choice not to put my kid in an art class,
Yeah.
to put them in the SAT prep as a sophomore, but then they're going to fill that art class at a junior or senior
right,
year.
right.
Does it qualify as one of these CTE math classes?
Oh, one of those, no, I hadn't thought about that, that's an interesting question.
About that.
It would be math intensive, it would be math enabled
Would that be a
course.
math class?
So it's certainly, hold on, this one I can answer the affirmative, okay? Yes.
This one, yes.
This class should be treated as an extension of a study hall. Nothing more than that. It should not be a half a credit class towards anything other than
No.
a study hall.
No,
No,
we're talking about math.
No, we're talking about PSAT and SAT. That should be instead of going to study hall, you can go PSAT or SAT.
Well, then you're narrowing
Yeah,
down
no.
your.
Because
you- 30 spots.
Well, that's fine, because they want to go to study hall, that's fine. I think their parents would have a different thought on that process. But if you give, just like you said, if you give them a half a credit for that class and there's 100 students, there's going to be another 100 students that aren't going to take another half a
Well,
credit
it's a math,
class.
if the thing is,
credit.
it's a math course.
Correct.
Now, when I was in high school, years ago, there was an SAT prep class, and you could take that, and it was a very beneficial class, and it was a great class, but it filled a math slot. So if you're looking at a child coming up for 8th grade with already having a year of math, taking a couple years, and then taking the SAT prep as a sophomore, they're going to fill that 4 slot pretty quickly. Now, I don't think those are the kids you're going to get into this SAT
No,
prep. It depends. I think when you talk about having this huge population that's going to have a huge demand, I think there's a lot of kids in Litchfield who are already prepared to take the SAT. I think there are a lot of kids who do well on that test, who, you know what I mean? But then there'll be parents who say, don't take the art, take the SAT prep.
Robin, I'll just
Are you
argue with you
looking
that
at
if you
me?
look at our
She's
results the
looking
last couple of years, we're not doing that good.
Well, and there's,
So I know a lot of kids are taking it.
Well, I guess this is my question. Are they doing well enough to get into college?
They are.
They are.
Then I think that's, when we compare against the scores, the reason we take an SAT prep, right, for a lot of parents and kids, is to get access to higher education. And if,
Also more money's
Doesn't have to do with money,
from the
the higher
college.
your
That's
score.
part of it. Yeah.
sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
It also can determine what tier of school you can apply to. You know, if you're wanting to go to a top tier school, you may need a 1450 or above, and if you're 1200 or 1300, then you're not going to get to the top tier.
Absolutely. But I'm just saying, a big part of our population, 50%, are probably not going towards that high-end school. They're going to end up at a state school or a mid-level school, and I think we're producing kids with SAT
Yes.
scores that are allowing them to get into those
and
schools.
this is a component of acceptance into college. When you look at acceptance into college, that is a piece, and in some places, a very small piece now, because they're looking at how many AP courses you're taking,
Absolutely.
the rigor of all your other classes, what your extracurricular activities
And we
are,
offer a lot of
and all
high-level
those
math
things.
classes here.
But we do want students
Competencies, considering
to
that we're small.
perform better, yes.
So my question, I guess, is you're answering, yes, it would fill a CTE. So for some of those kids who are on the line, right, maybe they're not
CTE?
CTE math class, CTE math course. right? Because you can take 3
Embedded.
years
You're
of
talking about
math,
embedded.
Yes.
and then you can take one of these CTEs. So
I don't know,
for-
CTE, I'm not sure what the acronym
I don't-
is coming
Career
from.
tech ed.
I don't know. I was just looking, does this?
Oh, no, in some of the career and tech ed courses, they qualify as math classes.
Career and tech ed.
Career and technical education are the, quote-unquote, the vocational programs of the past. What we're talking about are math-embedded, courses with math-embedded content in them. So many of your
Non-math courses, okay.
CTE courses qualify, but other courses can qualify as well.
So
Principles of
with this
engineering.
SAT prep class, for a kid who maybe isn't thinking about going to college, doesn't think they can get the high enough score, takes this class as their 4th year, maybe bumps them over the top, now they get a score that's decent and say, hey, college is a possibility now because they've taken this course. Is that a population that this class could help?
I think it's one of the populations.
Does it count as that 4th year for them? Is it something we want to push
See,
those kids
I don't
into?
know that I would have a challenge or a problem with the qualifying as a math-enabled course or a math content course. Because you're talking about you're going to have a math teacher teaching 50% of the content in there. It is going to be, it's not going to be, summation, it's not going to be, math facts or things of that nature. It's going to have to be rigorous, algebra-based, statistical-based, those concepts. So to me, it's not a math course, but it qualifies as one of those math-enabled, it should qualify as one of those math-enabled courses.
Great. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Okay.
I think it's a great addition to the things that we offer here for our students.
Right, yes.
I just didn't want it to take away from.
You
And
just
it doesn't
wanted
mean
to
any other UA
stir up the
requirement,
pot.
right?
Robin just wanted to
Like
stir
everything
up
else,
the pot.
you have to have
No.
2 arts,
It wouldn't
2 arts.
qualify as an English course, it wouldn't qualify as a math course in the math program, but it would cover this
English
piece of
teachers,
what the state requirements are.
Computer.
Thank you very much.
Computer
You're
tech.
welcome.
First of all, I stand corrected on the,
Question?
Michelle is correct. You have until the end. I was incorrect. It's the 30 days between when you have the first public meeting and the actual vote. So that's corrected. The second thing I would say is for the high school principals' ears.
Mr. High School Principal?
Yes.
You're being
The
talked
second
to.
thing I would say for the high school principals' ears is I think that our goal should be to have no study halls. I think we should have 0% study halls and have students involved in some kind of an academic program at all points in time. And I realized that that would take a significant financial contribution from the community because, quite honestly, study halls are holding tanks right now for students between the points in times when they're doing really rigorous academic work. And some would argue against me, but I think study halls should be eliminated from the curriculum.
Here, here.
I knew you'd like that one.
Oh, good thing there are no high school kids
Now I have another thought.
Here, here.
I disagree with that because I have a daughter who's very involved in extracurricular activities and uses her study hall to get some stuff done that she can't get done.
You state your name and
Oh, sorry,
address.
Amy Goldstein, 1 Spice Bush Circle.
What was that, what address?
1 Spice Bush Circle, I know. It's weird.
I knew I'd have some conflict with that.
The reason I came
I
over
thought
here
there
the
might be
first
one or
time
two
was I
people.
had a thought, my daughter would love to take just electives, but she has to meet her required courses. One of the required courses she had to meet was a computer course. And I'm thinking with adding these classes and allowing kids to choose some of these other classes, since everyone's on a one-to-one tech program now using computers in their classes, do we still need to have a computer requirement that fills a spot?
You were just getting, you got another note there,
What's
Mr.
that one that we want to teach? They have to have
Your
If it's the information, communication, technology.
Is that a state requirement?
Yes, it is.
Bill?
I don't know. I
Is that a state
I'm looking it up right now.
Is that a state, Robin? Is that a state requirement?
The computer? Oh, God, you're going to ask me a
Yes.
question?
We believe it is.
I think that the
I think it
state
is,
is
yeah.
going towards
ICT
even more
pathways.
so, they want every kid programming.
I see.
Everything I've gotten out of the state, this CS,
Yes,
foreign
ICT.
Well,
teacher.
the ranking is Litchfield, Department of Ed, Litchfield, and then everybody else.
Yeah, they want,
Catch up with
and
them,
that's not-
catch up with us.
It is a one-credit requirement.
It is.
ICT pathway.
from a teacher who taught computers for years and started teaching programming last year, it is totally different. The kids love it. The biggest part of it is problem solving, which is not about computers. It's about life. What do you do when you get a problem? How do you break it down? So I think that your courses may evolve and change at the high school so that they include some different aspects, especially when you get these kids in our 7th grade, right, Mr. Lecklater, who are programming away. They're going to want more of that. And they're going to need more of that to be in the world that we have coming at us at warp speed. So it's not about, because what we're doing in classrooms with the one-to-one initiative is very much.
I'm just saying, for a kid like my kid, that isn't a priority for her. Would allow her to take a class that is a priority for her.
But she loves
versus
music.
the computer.
I have an enrichment full of band kids who have found this online composing thing, and they're building, and then in their apps today, they had to build songs.
My thing is, she can't choose. She can't choose.
Sidebar conversation.
So based,
And what is she?
based on this, does that mean
What's
that
your year?
if somebody's
Junior,
using
so does she
their
not have
one-to-one
early release
computers
or
in
late
a
arrival yet?
English class, they can now use that.
See,
as
that's
their
what's going to go away,
PE,
is a lot of our juniors and seniors, I
computer
think,
class.
stuff like this. There won't be as many early releases or late arrivals
That's my
because
goal.
they'll have to, right? I had two.
Well, you know, we can fix early releases and late retirement.
Give me more teachers.
Do you,
Give
no,
me
no, no,
more
do you,
teachers.
just tell us. We'll make
Hey,
30,
you'll
we'll
see
make
it's gonna be
32
filled.
credits. You gotta have 32 credits to graduate.
I have to have
That's
teachers to
eight
teach.
per year.
I need teachers to teach those courses, more than happy.
Well, you know,
On a serious vein, Mr. Principal?
Here we go.
I think the state's behind the times on that requirement for computers, and I think there should be some way of students demonstrating competencies and not having to take that, so they can take something else.
They used to have an e-portfolio,
Yeah.
okay? And students who demonstrated mastery on their e-portfolios, they would qualify that as taking the place of the ICT Pathways program. And I'm not sure what states that's in. I think you're supposed to have your e-portfolio anyway, but it's not tracked, it's not rigorous in the sense that.
But I mean,
well, maybe we can be on the cutting edge on the front side of that.
districts that have one-on-one computers for K through 12.
Oh, I know.
It absolutely doesn't make any sense to me that you have to take a course in your senior year on how to use a computer. I mean,
Well, hopefully you did a freshman. but
at
yes.
any rate, that's my
You know,
line for the night. I'm all done.
Your second year, your sophomore year, is becoming more exciting. We should have you here more often at our meetings, because the amount of stuff that we get discussed with you is
You're
just.
throwing it at me. I'll take
just-
the weight.
He's getting good at dodging the arrows, too.
As far as the study hall goes, if we're talking about a block schedule, couldn't the teachers give the kids the last 15 minutes to get a head start, and then they wouldn't need a study? I mean, the way a block is supposed to be taught, a half hour of instruction, a half hour of maybe collaborative work, a half hour of review. That's the idea. That's what I always thought the idea more. Not
Oh, now,
listen to Mr. Cooper for 90
now a
minutes.
definition of 90 minutes.
Right. Yeah, we're not getting to
We'll
that.
be here another 90 minutes.
Mr. Chair, can you move the meeting along?
Wait for Nate to speak.
Thank you for letting me speak, Nate Cooper, Litchfield Education Association. Certainly lots of good conversation about courses. I do want to speak as the president of the LEA, although we certainly, I haven't taken a poll, so I certainly don't want to speak for membership, but I would gather that there is certainly concern amongst the teaching staff, amongst the professionals in the building, that reduction to the budget approaching $500,000. I would certainly agree, and I think many professionals would agree, that the potential impact it could have by not having a full-day kindergarten could be detrimental to our students, short-term and long-term. So I know I would certainly fully support the full-day kindergarten, and I certainly think as the LEA has discussions that we want to find a way to work with the school district and the community to ensure that either that $500,000 is returned to the school district budget or that we move to go ahead and pass a warrant article. Certainly defer to the wisdom of the school district in terms of how to move that forward. But certainly I believe that the members of the LEA would certainly get behind any push for that. I certainly haven't been able to attend as many meetings as I would have liked to have over the past few weeks. And I certainly don't want anyone to get the perception that the LEA or its members have not had an interest in the budget process this year. I think sometimes the perception might be if the contract's not on the table, that somehow the LEA loses interest. And that's certainly not the case. With this being a rather small organization, sometimes the president makes a decision or doesn't make a decision, and that can have an impact on the entire organization. I certainly think I could get better at delegating some of my responsibilities to the executive board. So that's probably why you haven't seen myself or others here as much as we would have liked to during the past few budget seasons. But in full disclosure, I had to finish up my master's, and I believe Liz McDonald may have appraised you that I will be having my first child. So, I'll spare my wife the detail of anything further, but that's sort of taken up a lot of my time. So we'll certainly be involved. We'll be having discussions, I think, internally within our organization about what steps we can take to try to support the school district in getting that money back or moving forward a warrant article to ensure that we do have full-day kindergarten here in the Litchfield School District. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other community input? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second. All those in favor?
We're at 11 o'clock. Are we supposed to meet at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning? The principals?
It's just ours.
Just the principals. Tomorrow at 11. Yeah. I just think there's a few things we need to talk about. So, nothing major. Nice to have that closed dialogue.
Hey, Tom.
Bill? We're meeting at 11 tomorrow morning, just the principals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and we're out at your office.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of extra, I think some closed dialogue is needed about a few things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Thank you.
You have to have someone who